Chapter 885. The grand wedding ended just like that. The entire three realms rejoiced, and only stopped after 3 days and 3 nights. To cultivators, 3 days and 3 nights was not much time at all. However, it was enough for them to enjoy themselves, to witness the union of a perfect couple. Especially when they saw the woman chosen by the god of the three realms. They knew exactly who it was. After it ended, Etianyin continued to make arrangements. He set up all sorts of formations and strengthened most of them. As for other things, there was no need for him to arrange them. It was enough for Sir Shuiyun and the others to stay here. In the starry sky outside the three realms, Etianyin had also set up quite a few large formations. Generally speaking, they were all illusion formations and reminder formations. However, he didn't know if it would be of any use. After all, he planned to leave this place and take a look at the outside world. After this great battle, he felt that he still had many shortcomings. The outside world was simply too vast and powerful. He knew that the evil spirit race's overall strength was very strong. He captured one of the evil spirit races, and after charming him, he managed to get a lot of information out of him. As his authority wasn't high enough, he didn't know much information. However, he already had a rough idea of what was going on. The final result was that the evil spirit race was very strong, unbelievably strong. How strong could it be? The one that was sent this time could only be considered a captain. He was called a general, but in reality, according to the division here, he was about the same as a deacon. A deacon, an ordinary deacon. A deacon was already so powerful. If they sent someone even stronger, they would definitely die. The next time they attacked, they would definitely be well prepared. If his cultivation was insufficient, the only result would be death. It would be difficult to continue leveling up here. Even if all the resources in the three realms were to be thrown at him, it would be useless. He needed too much experience right now. To be cruel, even if all the cultivators in the three realms were to be slaughtered by him, he probably wouldn't be able to level up by 1 or 2 levels. He needed too much experience right now, and it was even more impossible for him to kill the cultivators of the three realms. Thus, he had to leave this place and go to a wider world. If he could get to know more experts outside, it would be of great help to him, and it would be even more possible for him to deal with the evil spirit race together. It's about time. After arranging these formations, Etianyin returned to the mortal world and held a meeting. Summoned all the rulers of the three realms for a meeting. After the announcement was made, they quickly rushed over, not knowing what to announce. After everyone had arrived, Etianyin sat on top and swept his gaze across everyone before saying, "I'm preparing to leave the three realms and head to the outside world." What? Everyone was shocked. Only Sir Shuiyun, who was at the side, remained calm, as if she had already expected this. Etianyin never told anyone about this, including his wife, Sir Shuiyun. He didn't say a word about it. "Leader, you can't leave. If you leave, what will happen to us?" "That's right. Isn't this a group of dragons without a leader? You're our leader." None of them were willing to let Etianyin leave. Etianyin was their guardian. Without him, what would they do if the evil spirit race attacked in the future? "I think what you're more worried about is that I'll be like the 3 divine kings from before and never return." Etianyin said what they were truly worried about. They were all kings, and no one was better at managing a country than them. They were only worried that Etianyin would never return. How could they not be worried without a powerful god king guarding them? The 3 divine kings had left without returning, which was already enough to make people despair. If not for Etianyin's appearance, the 3 realms would have been finished long ago. They could imagine that the evil spirit race would make a comeback. At that time, without Etianyin, how could they withstand it? Now that he had exposed their thoughts with a single sentence, many of the country leaders had awkward expressions on their faces. That was indeed what they were thinking. "Don't worry, they won't be coming so quickly for the time being. It's not advisable to just rely on me alone. All of you have to work hard and make yourself stronger. Only then can the 3 realms be stabilized." Etianyin looked at them and said in a deep voice, "But you don't have to worry. If there's danger here, I'll rush back quickly." Everyone was just listening. Who knew how long it would take to rush back? Others might not be able to rush back quickly, but Etianyin could. He had a heaven-defying treasure, teleportation godstone. As long as he used this thing anywhere, he would be able to teleport back immediately. This was why he was not worried. No matter where he went or if he was trapped, he could teleport back with a teleportation godstone. Of course, he could not say for sure if it would ignore all the laws. Perhaps the area outside could prevent him from teleporting back. Everyone fell silent. However, they could tell that Etianyin had already made up his mind. There was no way to change it. I'll leave the matters of the three realms to you. I believe that you'll definitely protect the three realms well. It won't be invaded by external enemies. Etianyin looked at them and said. Then he explained the general situation. Basically, the meeting was dismissed. The reason why Etianyin asked them to come was to explain the situation. In addition, he announced that Shi Shuiyin would be the manager of the mortal realm. Everything would be based on her words. After everyone left, only Etianyin and Shi Shuiyin were left in the hall. The rest of them tactfully left. They all knew that the one who was truly sad was Shi Shuiyin. Not long after they got married, Etianyin was about to leave. How could she not be sad? Etianyin reached out and pulled her to sit down. They did not speak. They just quietly hugged each other. After a while, Shi Shuiyin said, I'll wait for you to come back. Silly girl, I'll come back at any time. Etianyin reached out and pinched her nose. He smiled and said, When you miss me, I'll appear in front of you. Don't tease me. You must pay attention to keeping a low profile outside. Although I don't know the situation outside, I know it's very dangerous. Tianyin, you must be safe. Not only for me, but also for our child. She gently stroked her belly. They already had a child. It was not difficult to get pregnant, especially since both of them were quite talented. The probability of them getting pregnant was very high. Etianyin reached out and stroked her belly. He smiled gently and said, I know, they did not talk too much. After staying here for a while, Etianyin left this star field. Before leaving, only Shi Shuiyin saw him off. Etianyin did not want too many people to see him off. It was too troublesome. You must come back. Chapter 886. After leaving the planet, Etianyin entered the spirit ship floating outside. The inside was empty. The corpses had already been cleaned up. Not only were the corpses cleaned up, but he also repaired the spirit ship. This repair was limited to the surface. After all, his ability was not enough to repair the entire ship. He could only repair a small part. But this was enough. He didn't need to completely repair it, as long as it could operate. Originally, the spirit ship could operate, but since the operator died, the others couldn't. Naturally, they could only choose to come out of the spirit ship and rush to the three realms. This spirit ship is really powerful. Whether it is the materials or the ability to build it, it is far beyond my imagination. Etianyin came to the control room. The control room was very simple. It was a very simple transmission array. There were 5 small array eyes, which meant that 5 people could operate it. In addition, there was a huge array outside, obviously used to inject energy into the array to drive the spirit ship. Before, the group of Saint King stage powerhouses had transferred energy here, which was why they were the last to come out. Of course, it didn't need so many Saint King stage powerhouses to operate it at the same time. If they did, the consumption would be too great. Immediately, he stood in the control array and began to explore for a while. After a while, he finally found a way to operate it. So it's like this, even if one person drives it, there is no problem, but the consumption is a bit more amazing. He immediately began to control the spirit ship, transferring energy into the control array. The entire spirit ship issued a hum sound, and the whole thing released a dazzling light. After filling up the array, Etianyin controlled the spirit ship to fly forward. Hum! The spirit ship issued a sound, and then with a shio sound, it rushed forward at an extreme speed, penetrating the rubble, smashing it into powder, and continuing to rush out. This situation scared him. No wonder it needed 5 people to control it. It turned out that this thing was not easy to control. It required precise control to be able to activate it smoothly. If it was just one person, it would require very strong control to be able to control it. Now that he couldn't control the speed, It rapidly rushed forward, rushing out of the three realms star field in one fell swoop. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the area. After he left, the surrounding rubble filled up the gap. At that moment, Etianyin took one last look behind him. What he saw was countless rubble that surrounded the three realms. From the outside, it looked like a pile of rocks, and one couldn't even see the interior of the three realms. It was clear that the three realms was very safe, but the problem was that their location was already known. No matter how they tried to hide it, it was useless. If he wanted this place to never be discovered by other forces, there was only one solution, and that was to exterminate the evil spirit race. "I'll be back soon." Etianyin turned his head back and was instantly scared out of his wits. In front of him was a huge rock. He quickly steered the spirit ship to the side. With a loud bang, the giant spirit ship began to shake. Just like that, a large chunk of the huge rock was smashed away. If the spirit ship were to collide with this thing, it would definitely be fine, but if it were to collide with this thing, Etianyin would probably be thrown out. Fortunately, he was able to avoid this huge rock in a hurry. Phew, it's really difficult to control this thing. Etianyin wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Not only was it difficult, but it also consumed a lot of spiritual power. In just a short time, he had used up almost half of his spiritual power. No wonder so many Saint King stage powerhouses were sucked dry. At this rate of consumption, it wouldn't be long before he was completely sucked dry. However, he felt that it was still very cost-effective. The speed was too fast, dozens of times faster than his flying speed. If he flew outside with his body, the degree of danger would be even greater. But inside this spirit ship, not only was it fast, but it was also very safe. With a lot of control, Yonkai felt that he was more proficient in controlling the spirit ship. He had to admit that it required a lot of spiritual power. In this aspect, it required a lot of spiritual power, otherwise it would be impossible to control this thing. No wonder after being sucked dry several times in a row, even after the operator was killed, no one was able to control this spirit ship. It was really difficult to learn in a short time. If he wasn't careful and fell into the black vortex, he would be dead for sure. After becoming proficient, he was finally able to observe the situation around him. There was basically no life around him. From a distance, he could see many planets floating in the air. Some looked bare, while others were covered with plants. These planets looked very ordinary, and there were no cultivators living in them. They were basically just rocks. However, even if there were cultivators living here, General Long Tay and the others weren't interested. The reason they came here was to seize the core. By capturing some evil spirit race people and interrogating them, he roughly learned a few more important things. First of all, this place was very far away. Even if the spirit ship flew crazily here without stopping, it would still take more than 10 years. The premise was that they couldn't stop flying for even a moment. Sometimes they would need to rest, so it would take about 15 years to reach this place. For those at the St. King stage, 15 years was really not a big deal, so the cultivation meeting was over. Moreover, the evil spirit race was really powerful. He wouldn't go straight to the evil spirit race's ancestral land. That would be no different from throwing his life away. Even if he had the evil spirit race puppets, he wouldn't dare to do that. If he was seen through one day, he could escape, but that was not the result he wanted. In any case, he just needed to quickly increase his cultivation, and then when they came to invade, he would come back to suppress them and earn a wave of experience. It was that simple. Since he didn't know who they would send, the best thing he could do was to quickly increase his cultivation. After stabilizing the spirit ship, Etianyin took out the god star plate. This was a rare item he obtained from killing demon god Soth. At that time, he played with it and found that it was actually a starry sky map. General Long Tay also had a star plate, but it wasn't as comprehensive as this one. They weren't on the same level at all. After opening it, a huge star river map appeared in front of him. The three realms were in an extremely small corner. This was a known corner. As for the evil spirit race's ancestral land, it was in another corner. This star plate was divided into many areas, and these areas were collectively known as the Divine Domain. The Divine Domain was divided into large and small areas. The closer one was to the center, the higher the level. Chapter 887. Tianyin controlled the spirit ship to fly forward quickly. He didn't stop along the way. If he didn't have enough spiritual power, he would take some medicinal pellets. He wanted to reach the divine domain as fast as possible. He couldn't afford to waste any time. He had plenty of time, but it could also be said that he didn't have enough time. I'm almost there. Flying at high speed, he spent an entire month's time, and he was finally about to enter the divine territory. It was thanks to the spirit ship's speed that he could fly so fast. If he didn't have the spirit ship, he wouldn't even be able to reach 1/10 of the spirit ship's speed unless his phoenix bloodline was upgraded to the highest level. If he flew at his fastest speed, it would take him at least a year to reach the divine domain. If he was a spirit king stage cultivator, he would most likely die outside. There were many planets along the way, but the spiritual power of those planets was thin. Even if they could accommodate people, it would take more than 100 years to reach the divine domain. And this was under the premise that there was no danger to reach the divine domain. How much willpower would it take to fly alone outside for 100 years? That person would probably become stupid from flying alone for 100 years. Tianyin looked at the map on the astrolabe. There were many light spots on it, and he was flying towards the nearest place. According to the astrolabe, there was a city nearby, and it was a very big city. It could be regarded as the entrance to the divine domain. Outside the divine domain, there were also countless areas, but they weren't turned into the divine domain. Instead, they were collectively known as Fanyu. When he was about to reach the divine domain, he quickly flew out of the spirit ship and touched it with his hand. Store it? Immediately, the spirit ship was stored in the inventory. It only occupied one of the inventory. It can be said that it didn't take up any space. If he wanted to store the spirit ship, unless he had a storage ring with an amazing capacity, it really couldn't be stored. This spirit ship couldn't be changed in size, and just storing it would take up a lot of space. Of course, General Long T's storage ring could accommodate this spirit ship. But what place could be safer than his own inventory? After flying out, he continued to fly forward. As he got closer and closer, he gradually began to see cultivators flying in front of him. These cultivators were not limited to the human race. There were many other strange races, such as the rock tribe. Their bodies were made of rocks, and they looked very strange. There were all sorts of strange races, but the human race was still the most numerous, mainly because of their reproductive ability. It had to be said that the human race was definitely a top-notch existence. There's even a god king. Not long after he approached, he saw a god king expert, but he wasn't from the human race, he was from another race. As for the other races, even the weakest among them was at spirit king stage. There were also other small spirit ships carrying people to the front. It could be said that people from all over the world of you were constantly flying toward the divine realm. I wonder where the heaven-creating divine king and the others are now. Tianyin furrowed his brows. He didn't know what situation the three god kings were in. They hadn't returned for so long. It was very likely that they were trapped or busy with something and temporarily couldn't get away. After all, if they were to fly to the three realms from here, it would take them at most a few years to return. They either fell in love with the divine realm and didn't want to go back, or they were trapped. Tianyin believed that the latter was more likely. It was unlikely that they would abandon the three realms. Judging from their serious attitude towards protecting the three realms, he believed that they would never abandon the three realms. There are so many cultivators, and their cultivation is not low. Sure enough, the three realms is a small world, and the outside world is the real big world. Tianyin looked at the situation in front of him with excitement. Just when he was about to enter the divine realm, a cultivator suddenly flew over from the side. "Hey, brother, are you going to the divine realm?" The cultivation of the young man who flew over was not low. He was at the second level of the divine king stage, which was really a common cultivation. If he came to the three realms with this cultivation, wouldn't he be a king? I think there's no other way except to go to the divine realm, right? Tianyin said with a faint smile. Without a doubt, this guy flew over alone. Naturally, he had to find someone to go with him. It was undoubtedly a better choice to go with him. I am Lei Jingyu. Can I go to the divine realm with you? Lei Jingyu said awkwardly. I flew for a long time to come to this area. I have to say that the divine realm is really too far, and I almost got lost outside. All right, let's go together. I also flew for a long time to get here. Tianyun smiled. This Lei Jingyu was quite friendly and didn't have any arrogance. Immediately, Tianyun also introduced himself, and the two started to get familiar with each other. As they flew, they chatted with each other. Tianyun learned that the area where Lei Jingyu was located was also a poor and remote place. His cultivation was the highest, so he felt that it would be difficult for him to break through again. So he flew to the divine realm. The difference was that the area where Lei Jingyu was located was not that far away, and he was very clear about the divine realm. After reaching the God King stage or the Saint King stage, he could leave and choose to go to the divine realm. Although Lei Jingyu was the leader, he didn't have any arrogance. Instead, he looked very friendly. This wasn't an act. Obviously, even as the leader, he was very friendly. We're here. We're here. The divine realm should be in front of us. It looks so spectacular. Lei Jingyu was excited. There was a huge passage in front of them, and there were many spirit ships and cultivators flying inside. From here, they would officially enter the divine realm. It wasn't that there were no entrances in other places, but this was one of the entrances. Because it was the closest, Tianyun would definitely enter from here. Tianyun's eyes flickered, and he wondered what the scene in the divine realm would be like. Immediately, the two of them flew forward quickly. When they entered the passage, the power around them began to change. Vaguely, Tianyun felt that it wasn't spiritual force, but another kind of energy. However, the appraisal I couldn't see it, so he didn't know what kind of energy it was. After they passed through the passage, they didn't enter another star field, but a hall. He didn't expect that they would be teleported to a hall and not to the outside star field. As soon as they entered, they saw many guards standing on the side, looking at them coldly. Everyone stand here. If you resist, you will be killed. These guards were all God King stage cultivators, and none of them were not. God King stage cultivators. All guards. Tianyun was shocked. Wasn't this treatment a bit too terrifying? Chapter 888. Outside, Yonkai had worked hard to cultivate to the God King stage or Saint King stage, but here he was at best a guard, not a leader, but a very ordinary guard. This really made Tianyun feel like he fell from the peak to the starting point. However, the lowest cultivation level of the cultivators who came here was the Spirit King stage, and those with lower cultivation level couldn't come here easily. Those who were only at the Spirit King stage had to ride a spirit ship to get here. If they only relied on their physical strength, it would be difficult for them to get here. Star-Lord stage, stand here. Those who are below Star-Lord stage, stand over there. At this time, a stronger cultivator stood in this direction and signaled them to stand in line. This person's cultivation level is even more overbearing, and it gives Tianyun a feeling that he is at the same level as General Longtae. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for entering the New World God Realm. Successfully deducted 50 million crazy points, carrying out comprehensive data upgrade. What? Tianyun was shocked. He didn't know what happened, but 50 million crazy points were deducted. He wanted to use it to upgrade crazy mode, but it was deducted just like that. Ding! 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 System upgrade successfully. Cultivation level has been changed to conform to the rules of God Realm. All major systems and combat power system have been changed, and the data of appraisal has been upgraded. Ding! 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 Changes successfully. Soon after, a wave of information continuously surged into his mind, starting to change various major data. After he understood this, his heart trembled. First was the change in cultivation. Cultivation was no longer at the God King stage. God King stage was a term only used in the mortal realm. It was completely different in this place. Generally speaking, it is Star Lord, 9 refinements Earth Lord, Lord of Heaven, Divine Monarch, Heavenly Lord, God Emperor. Every level was still divided into 10 levels. This had not changed. The main point is that the title of the creator has also changed. It is no longer the top level title, but directly changed to divine craftsman, divine alchemist, and divine carving master. The three levels correspond to the level of the creator, and at the same time, it is divided into 9 levels. To put it bluntly, the creator was only at the rank 1 realm. There were even higher realms beyond that. All aspects of data began to be updated. Now, when he looked at the guards, whether it was their cultivation, the way they addressed them, or their battle prowess, they had all changed greatly. Gu Yanlong, second refinement Earth Monarch, wearing low-grade divine equipment, martial art, dragon revolving spell, rebirth level. Overall combat power, 20,000 star power. Lei Jingyu, grade 3-star monarch, wears a low-grade divine artifact, knows martial arts. Overall combat power is 1,300 points. With a glance, the data was refreshed. This so-called Star Lord was actually a God King stage cultivator. How could it be called the God King stage here? It could only be considered as a relatively normal cultivation, an entry-level cultivation. As for combat power, it was directly replaced with star power. 1 point of star power was equivalent to 100 million. This star power naturally referred to the star power of the god's domain. Not only had his cultivation improved, but even his martial arts and weapon grade had changed greatly. From the initial heaven-level martial arts to the reincarnation level, this was an even stronger level of martial arts. If he continued to go up, there would naturally be more, but the data was too huge. It was really difficult to react for a while. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for getting God's Domain entry gift pack. After deducting 50 million crazy points, other than the updated data, there was no other change. He felt a little pain just now, but now he got an extra God's Domain entry gift pack. It seems to be not bad. Immediately, he opened the gift pack without hesitation, and a pleasant voice sounded. Successfully opened the God's Domain entry gift pack. Received primary God's Domain lottery roulette, an extra lottery ticket, 200 times EXP card, 50 times crazy point card, 50 times mastery card, 50 times sin value card, and also received 9th Refinement Earth Monarch gift pack. Must be 9th Refinement Earth Monarch to open. Good stuff. Etienne's eyes lit up. These things are definitely worth up to 50 million crazy points. Although other things did not upgrade, such as crazy mode did not upgrade, and appraisal I did not upgrade, but all aspects of the data have been upgraded. Even if it didn't upgrade, he can use the appraisal eye. After all, the level of the appraisal I did not upgrade, but the data has been upgraded, which means that the level of the appraisal eye is enough. It's just that the data is insufficient. Even if the level is enough, it doesn't mean anything. No matter what, at least he won't be blinded by it. Of course, he can still investigate the information around him. He can still understand the situation of the god's domain, but it is definitely not as convenient and fast as the appraisal eye. Brothery, why are you in a daze? Hurry up and line up. Lei Jingyu next to him patted him on the shoulder and signaled him to hurry up and line up. Etianya nodded and followed Lei Jingyu to the front and stood on the side with the others. At this time, he found that there are still a lot of people around. There are people from all major races. Only the 2 of them are human cultivators. This is a bit embarrassing. The number of human cultivators is relatively large, but because of the bloodline, their cultivation is not as good as others. But they are all God King stage. To be exact, they are all star monarchs, and there are more than 30 of them. Here, they are like cabbages. He is the only star monarch in the 3 realms. Although they look like cabbages, it was unknown how many experts from different forces had gathered here. From the astrolabe map, Fan Yu is very vast, even larger than the entire god's domain. So the result can be imagined. Every force is 1 star monarch, but there are hundreds or even thousands of them. They are not cabbages, but they are not cabbages after all. There are only hundreds of star monarchs in so many forces. They are not cabbages, but they can be seen everywhere here. It really feels like they're just getting started. After waiting in line, not long after, Gu Yanlong, who is the leader, walked back and forth in front of them and said coldly, "The god's domain you are in now is called the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. Now you have the chance to choose whether to join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm or not. If you join the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm, you will have to listen to the orders of the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. No matter where you come from, what you have done in the past, what your status is, or how many people respect you. Here, you will absolutely obey our instructions. If you do not obey our instructions, the result will be death. Gu Yanlong's aura pressed over, making them feel a little weak in their legs. The difference in cultivation is too big. Just the aura alone can crush them to death. Everyone's heart trembled, and many people's arrogance was restrained. They are indeed used to being the leaders in the other world, and they are not very willing to obey orders here. Now that the aura is pressed, they immediately know what it means to say that there is always a mountain higher than the mountain, and there is always someone better. Ding, God's domain mission mode started, accepted the main mission breakthrough to the 9th refining Earth Lord. Completed the reward, 500 million crazy points, 500 million SBS, 500 million mastery. Chapter 889. What's going on? You want me to break through to the 9th refinement earthly monarch realm? Tianyun was dumbfounded when he saw the first mission. His current cultivation level was not low, as he had reached the 8th level of the Divine King stage. In this case, he was ready to reach the level of the Earth Lord, but he still felt that the mission came a little too early. This was the main mission that allowed him to break through. As for the mission to destroy the ancestral land of the evil spirit clan, it was not activated at all. Obviously, his cultivation level was not enough, so he would not be able to kill his way there. Unless he reached the area of the ancestral land now, the mission might be activated in advance. While he was surprised, the situation around him changed a little. All the cultivators were shocked. They were all very arrogant, and they could be called kings in their previous areas. They thought the same when they came here, and they felt that they could definitely be kings. In the world of Fanyu, they could be kings, so it was not a problem here. Although they seemed to be more honest, they were not convinced. Wasn't it just a guard? After they got the resources here, they would be able to climb up quickly. At that time, they would be able to trample everyone under their feet and climb to a higher peak. This was what most people thought. Gu Yanlong seemed to know what they were thinking. After glancing at them, he said coldly, "I know that you must be very unconvinced, but there are many geniuses in Fanyu who came here, and in the end, there are only a few who can persist in the end. Let me tell you, the cultivation level that you have broken through to this place is indeed amazing, but to be honest, it is just the beginning. The cultivation in the past was just a game, and it was not interesting at all. From now on, you need to use your life to break through. Of course, what you think is your own business. Now, I want you to be absolutely obedient. If any of you is much stronger than me, I will obediently bow to you. Whether it is in your world or in the divine realm, strength is respected. The stronger the person, the more right to speak. I'll ask you one last time. Are you willing to work for the heavenly mandate divine realm and never betray it?" They looked at each other, and one of the Star Lords looked at him and said, "What if we want to join other divine realms?" There wasn't just one divine domain, but many of them. God's domain was equivalent to a country. However, this God's domain was simply too vast. Its range was equivalent to hundreds of the 3 realms. There were also countless planets in God's domain. It could be said that the divine realm's resources were hundreds, or even thousands, of times more than the 3 realms. The difference between the two was inconceivable. The further away the God domain was, the lower the grade of the God domain. For example, the heavenly mandate divine realm was actually equivalent to a first-grade divine realm, which was the lowest level. It was a very simple and crude naming method. The God domain was divided into 5 grades. The outermost was the first-grade God domain, while the innermost was the second-grade God domain. After this star monarch raised the question, the others looked over and were shocked. They had already joined in, and yet he had already said such a thing. Wasn't he courting death? Of course. If you wish to join a God's domain of the same level, you must have the corresponding contribution points. Once you have accumulated enough contribution points, you can leave. If you wish to join a higher grade God's domain, we welcome you with open arms. You don't need any contribution points. Instead, we will reward you. Gu Yanlong looked at them coldly and said, "I know you are biting off more than you can chew, but let me make it clear here. Wait until you break through to a higher level of earthly monarch. Without earthly monarchs of fifth refinement and above, the higher grade God's domain won't even bother to recruit you. They looked at each other and felt that this was unbelievable. They didn't expect there to be such rules. By the way, I'm telling you so much because I value talent. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. I've been there before. Gu Yanlong was expressionless, but there was some warmth in his words. After all, the real, overbearing superiors couldn't be bothered to say more. I'm willing to serve the heavenly mandate divine realm. I'm willing to. They all chose to join. If they wanted to join a force, they had to be loyal to that force. Whether it was Fan Yu's force or the God's domain, the rules were about the same. If they recruited an ingrate, no one would be happy to do so. Tianyin also chose to join the heavenly mandate divine realm. He believed that the other gods' domains were about the same. It was like recruiting a new disciple. There would be stricter rules in all aspects. I almost forgot to tell you. If you want to join the heavenly mandate divine realm, you can't join if you don't have enough standards. At most, you can be an outer sect disciple like the others. You can serve the heavenly mandate divine realm as an outer sect disciple first. You can only join officially when you have enough qualifications. Gu Yanlong said, "When the time comes, let me see if you can really keep your arrogance down." They all nodded. This was for sure. If they didn't go through the test, the heavenly mandate divine realm would definitely not let them join. Gu Yanlong didn't continue speaking. He led them forward, as if he was going to take them to the test venue. When they followed, they had only taken a few steps when Lei Jingyu was violently pushed away. "Human brats, stand back." The one who pushed Lei Jingyu away was a cultivator from the tree clan. His entire body was covered in tree roots, and a strong vitality surrounded his body. "That's right. Human cultivators, stand behind us and line up obediently." I didn't expect that a lowly race like the humans could cultivate to such a level. I don't know what kind of luck they have. All of them looked at them with unfriendly gazes. They looked down on them from the bottom of their hearts. "What did you say?" Lei Jingyu's anger immediately surged up. His body released crackling sounds of lightning. "What? You want to fight?" They didn't care at all. Tianyin reached out and patted Lei Jingyu's shoulder. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't be angry. Calm down. Oh, this human is more sensible. He needs to know his place. Do you understand?" The cultivator from the tree clan looked at him with contempt. "What place? It's just servility. The humans just need to step on them a little, and they will immediately compromise." Another person from the tree clan sneered. "Brother, we can't let them look down on us." Lei Jingyu looked very peaceful, but when faced with this kind of situation, he would never give in. "You misunderstood me. Why bother arguing with trash like them? Trash is trash. Get out of my way, you who cut in line." Tianyin didn't expect that Tianyin would attack him, and he didn't even have time to react. Bang! Tianyin kicked the tree race treant, and the tree race treant was sent flying. He hit the wall on the side, and several of his branches were broken. Then he looked at the stunned Lei Jingyu and laughed. Sometimes, don't talk nonsense with them. Just do it and slap their cheap mouths. Chapter 890. Tianyin kicked them without hesitation. No matter where they were, as long as they looked down on them, they would fight back immediately. If they chose to swallow their anger, they would not be able to raise their heads here. After all, humans were the minority here, not the majority. Lei Jingyu was dumbfounded. He thought that Tianyin wanted to compromise, but now it seemed that it was not the case at all. Tianyin attacked without any warning. "Bastard, you trash human! I will kill you." The tree clan member roared and rushed over, wanting to fight with Tianyin. Being kicked out by a human in front of so many people, one could imagine the humiliation in his heart. How could he not want revenge? Enough! Gu Yanlong stepped forwards, causing a terrifying shockwave to descend, forcing the treant to stop. The other treants who wanted to attack were also forced to stand where they were, not daring to move at all. Gu Yanlong walked over step by step, looked at them coldly, and said, quite energetic, "If you want to fight, wait until the assessment is over. I will not object to it. Now line up obediently and don't make trouble. Understand? Understood. One by one. The tree race nodded, but their eyes were filled with anger as they stared at Etianyan with a look of determination. Etianyan didn't bother to pay attention to them. He just walked along with Lei Jingyu according to the original line. In fact, there was no need to line up here, but the tree race didn't like the human race, so they came here to cause trouble. Gu Yanlong looked Etianyan up and down, and a subtle smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He did not blame them and led the way. After Gu Yanlong walked forward, the tree clan member behind him said coldly, "Boy, if you have the guts, fight with me after the assessment is over." Shu Xiong, maybe they can't even pass the assessment, and they are not qualified to fight with you, his companion Shu Han sneered. If one wanted to join the heavenly mandate divine realm, the test would definitely not be simple. Even if one reached the Star Lord level, one could not enter at will. After all, Star Venerates had different levels of strength. This was just like the evil spirit race. They were at the same level, but when they detonated their bloodline, they would instantly explode, and they would definitely be able to instantly kill opponents of the same level. That's true. Let's see your performance in this assessment, fool. Shu Xiong coldly snorted. If he could have done it, he would have done it long ago. Gu Yanlong had already said it, so he definitely couldn't continue to act recklessly. The other races showed expressions of schadenfreude. Although they didn't come to cause trouble, their expressions showed that they were also extremely disdainful of the human race. A cold light flashed in Yi Tianyun's eyes. He couldn't be bothered with these races. Some things couldn't be easily changed. If he wanted to change their minds, he could only make himself stronger. Under Gu Yanlong's lead, they passed through the corridor and walked forward. After walking out, they saw a spacious hall. Originally, he thought that he would walk out of this hall. Who knew that after walking for a while, he would end up in another hall? However, there was a huge matrix in the center of this hall. They could see a holy divine light shining down from the sky. Looking up, there was nothing outside. It was just a very normal sky. The assessment later is very simple. If you can last more than 2 days here, you can officially join our heavenly mandate divine realm. Gu Yanlong stood in front of the matrix and looked at them. He explained, the light shining down from here is actually nothing special. It's just the special energy outside the divine realm. Since it's your first time here, you must go through a special baptism and transformation before you can truly be considered a member of the divine realm. After transformation, your most basic energy will be transformed into star power. The longer you can last, the better the effect and the more thorough the transformation will be. When that time comes, it will be of great help to your future cultivation. 2 days is the most basic. If you can't last more than 2 days, you can only become an outer disciple. We can determine whether you can join us through your future contributions. If you can last more than 2 days, then you can successfully join the heavenly mandate divine realm. Gu Yanlong explained in detail, and they all nodded. So there was such a thing. If they stayed here for a long time, they could also transform the power in their bodies. Star power. Etienne's eyes flashed. He thought of the other people's data with the appraisal eye. They had all changed. It turned out that it had really turned into star power. Lei Jingyu had not gone through the baptism, but his data was still judged by star power. There was no problem. Lord Gu, what is the current record? Yi Tianyan asked at this time. Everyone looked at him with disdain in their eyes. You talk as if you can break the record. Shu Xiong beside him couldn't help but mock. The current record in the heavenly mandate divine realm is 10 days. Those who have achieved this are now the Lord of Heaven of the heavenly mandate divine realm, the successor of the next region lord. Gu Yanlong looked at Yi Tianyan and said, if you can break this record or get close to it, you can get focused training and directly become a core training target. Everyone's eyes lit up. This was a great temptation. If they could last longer, it would have a great impact on their future. Yi Tianyan nodded. He definitely wanted to get close to the record or create a record. It was impossible to stand firm here and keep a low profile. The more low profile one was, the less it was possible to get more resources. Especially in this country full of discrimination, if one's strength was not strong, who would obey you? Not to mention that they would give you more resources. If there are no more questions, we can start the test now. There is no time limit. The test will start as soon as you enter. If you faint halfway, it will be the end. No matter how you try, you won't have this kind of opportunity again, Gu Yanlong said. After that, everyone immediately began to prepare to enter the test. Xu Xiong sneered at the side. 2 days. I hope you don't faint right away. But if you fail, I think you will definitely die a little worse. If he did not join the heavenly mandate divine realm, the difference in status would be even greater. By then, Xu Xiong could kill him however he wanted. If there was a huge difference in status, there would be no restrictions to execute people at will. Is that so? Take care of yourself first. Yi Tianyin didn't bother to pay attention to him. He turned his head to look at Lei Jingyu and said, "We humans have always been looked down upon. This time, we have to last 2 days no matter what. The longer the better." Chapter 891. One by one, the examinees stepped into the formation. As soon as they stepped in, a divine light shone down from above and enveloped the examinees. Following that, intense energy crazily poured into the cultivators' bodies and began to transform them crazily. They wanted to transform the low-level energy in their bodies into energy that was compatible with the divine realm. The cultivators outside who did not enter saw that those who had just entered were immediately filled with terrifying energy. A lot of energy in their bodies was squeezed out one after another. It turned out that no matter what kind of energy it was being squeezed out bit by bit. It was obvious that the energy in the body was first squeezed out, then filled the body with new energy, and finally, the body was transformed. This process would probably take at least 2 days to be considered a considerable transformation. They didn't give him 2 days for no reason. There must be a reason for it. It was just that this process was extremely painful. The energy was quickly stripped out and followed by new energy. Because this energy was very violent, it would take another process to subdue it. However, they were all star lords and top powerhouses in the Fanyu world. They definitely had some ability. Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu looked at each other and walked in. As soon as he entered, Yi Tianyun also felt a violent energy pouring into his head and began to transform the spiritual energy in his body. He quickly sat down and began to stabilize this violent energy so that he could transform the energy in his body. His most basic energy had always been spiritual energy. If it was transformed into star power, his power in battle would definitely be raised to a higher level. This reminded him of the battle with the evil spirit race powerhouses before. He always felt that their power was very terrifying, and the energy that they erupted was different. It seemed like it was star power. They had a higher level of energy, so they had a natural advantage in battle. Just this alone was enough to leave them in the dust. Even if he had the crazy system now, it had nothing to do with changing his physique. The only thing that was related was the power of the bloodline in his body, which could withstand more energy and carry out faster transformation. What he had always been proud of was his physique. His dragon god bloodline was at the 8th grade and almost reached the peak. His current physique was quite strong, and his bare hands were equivalent to the strength of a middle-grade divine artifact. Therefore, this so-called test was nothing more than a test of the strength of the physique and the strength of the perseverance. His willpower had never lost to anyone, whether it was in the past or now. Right now, Crazy Mode couldn't provide any help at all. Everything depended on what he had gained over the years. You must hold on. Yi Tianyun closed his eyes and started devouring the energy around him, circulating the tyrannical, devouring heaven divine art. Others would love nothing more than to rush and slowly, but he wanted to be faster. He wanted to completely transform his body. He wanted to become strong enough to protect his family. Ah! A blood-curdling scream rang out from the side. It had only been less than a day, and someone had already fainted. After fainting, the cultivator no longer absorbed star power. The transformation could only be considered complete. Gu Yanlong did not drag him out. In a sense, the transformation was already complete. In the future, there would be no problem for him to move around freely in God's domain. Since that was the case, he could just wait for them to wake up. There was no need to drag them out. Less than a day. Gu Yanlong shook his head. He felt that the cultivator was too weak. He was so arrogant before, but now he fainted as soon as he came in. How embarrassing. Captain Gu, are these the newcomers? At this moment, a cultivator walked over. From the structure of his body, he was from the Trant tribe. Gu Yanlong was not from the Trant tribe, but he was from the Dragon tribe. To be able to become the captain of this place, he must not be simple. Oh, it's Captain Shu Yuan. Aren't you at the other entrance? How come you have the time to come here? Gu Yanlong looked at Shu Yuan with a disgusted expression. I'm here to run some errands, so I came to see what new disciples you've recruited. Shu Yuan looked up, and his eyes lit up when he saw people from his own tribe taking the test. These two seedlings are not bad. I didn't expect disciples from our tribe to take the test. He nodded and saw Yi Tianyin and Lei Jingyu sitting next to him. His happy expression immediately turned into a frown. Captain Gu, are humans allowed to take the test? Captain Shu Yuan, I'm just following the rules. I don't think there are any rules that prohibit humans from taking the test, right? Gu Yanlong said calmly. That's true, but none of the people who came to take the test lasted even a day. It's too weak. It's not interesting at all. Even if he successfully passed, didn't he still make a fuss before and embarrass the heavenly mandate realm? Shu Yuan said discontentedly. I won't let humans take the test. They can join whatever force they want. Gu Yanlong frowned and said in a low voice, that's an exception. Captain Shu Yuan, you're not following the rules. What if you miss out on the good seedlings? Good seedlings? You don't think these two boys are good seedlings, do you? Shu Yuan laughed. I've taken the test of so many human cultivators. It's good enough if 1 out of 100 is good enough. Captain Gu, your eyes are still not good enough? It's a waste of resources to take in human cultivators. Oh, I don't think they're bad. Captain Gu said calmly. If there's nothing else, Captain Shu Yuan, you can go back. Captain Gu, I've heard that you're quite stubborn. I won't go now. Shu Yuan looked at his two clansmen and sneered. How about we make a bet? If one of those two humans surpasses my clansmen, I'll lose. If I lose, I'll give one of them a place in the selection. How about that? On the other hand, if you lose, you'll give your place to my two clansmen. How about that? Captain Gu frowned. The place in the selection was very important. Every captain could only get a place in the selection once every 10 years. The place in the selection was actually to let them enter a special treasure pavilion in the heavenly mandate sacred region and obtain treasures according to their abilities. This treasure could be a martial art, or it could be a weapon, or it could even be some kind of treasure. It was hard to say. In short, they might return empty-handed, or they might obtain excellent treasures. They could only get one chance to make the selection after serving here for 10 years. They could use it themselves or give it to the newcomers they admired. What? You don't dare to bet. Shu Yuan shook his head and said, even Captain Gu thinks that the human race can't win. It's impossible for such a small race to win. Chapter 892. Seeing that Gu Yanlong was willing to bet with him, Shu Yuan was overjoyed. After all, it was a free gift. How could he not be happy? Seeing that Gu Yanlong was so supportive of the human race, he wanted to set Gu Yanlong up. Who knew that Gu Yanlong would be willing to bet with him? If Gu Yanlong wasn't willing, he couldn't force him. But it was different if Gu Yanlong agreed. You said it. You can't go back on your word. Shu Yuan said hurriedly. I never go back on my word. Gu Yanlong looked indifferent. How could he not know what Shu Yuan was thinking? But he chose to believe in this new human cultivator. He felt that Yi Tianyin had a chance to turn the tables. He felt that Yi Tianyin wouldn't be any weaker than anyone else. All right, let's wait and see. Shu Yuan smiled with satisfaction. How could he not be happy to get another chance to choose? It hadn't been long, and he already thought that he was going to win. Inside, Yi Tianyin didn't know what was going on outside. He continued to absorb the star power around him and transform the energy in his body. As the transformation went faster and faster, he felt that his combat strength was increasing. He didn't feel any problem. His body was like a vast ocean that could hold hundreds of rivers and continuously absorb energy into his body. The others were starting to feel like they couldn't take it anymore. It meant that their bodies were too weak to hold more energy. Most importantly, their control was also weak. Otherwise, they could have quickly converted the energy and easily transformed the energy in their bodies. As time went by, as the second day approached, some cultivators started to fall. They couldn't even hold on the second day and fell, which meant that they were not fated to join the heavenly mandate realm. In fact, not to mention the heavenly mandate realm, the other divine realms were almost the same. It was difficult to recruit those who didn't reach the standard as official disciples. If the potential was too weak, so what if they were Star Lords? They were worthless. However, Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu easily passed the second day and met the requirements. Xu Xiong and Xu Han didn't have any problems. They also passed the test easily, but they didn't stop. They wanted to reach higher levels. I thought they wouldn't last more than 2 days. I didn't expect them to make it. Xu Yuan shook his head, his eyes still full of disdain. Gu Yanlong didn't say anything and just watched quietly from the side. On the third day, the others soon failed, and several people fell one after another. There were a total of 30 to 40 people who came for the assessment. Now, on the third day, almost 10 of them had fallen. The failure was quite obvious. As for those who had failed earlier, they all silently left after waking up. This was too shameful. He couldn't even last 2 days. How could he still have the face to stay here? He had just arrived at the God realm, and he had already suffered a heavy blow. One had to know that they were gods in the Fanyu. Who would dare to disobey them? However, he couldn't even get the basics and suffered a heavy blow. The third day passed. Yi Tianyun and the rest also persevered without any problems. On the fourth day, many more cultivators collapsed. Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu were still standing strong. At this time, Xu Yuan's expression changed. Few humans could last that long, which gave him a bad feeling. The main thing was that Xu Xiong and the rest looked like they couldn't hold on any longer. Their bodies were trembling, and they couldn't hold any more energy. What's going on? How can they still hold on? Xu Xiong opened his eyes slightly, and when he saw Yi Tianyun and others on the side, he was shocked. Especially Yi Tianyun was like an old monk meditating. He didn't feel anything at all. Seeing this, Xu Xiong and the rest could only grit their teeth and continue. They didn't want to lose to the humans. They had to hold on even if they had to die. On the fifth day, Xu Xiong screamed and fainted. This meant that he couldn't hold on any longer and could only collapse. Xu Yuan's expression darkened when he saw this. He cursed that guy in his heart for being so useless. He couldn't even hold on for 5 days. There's one more. Xu Yuan didn't give up. After all, they were betting on who could last the longest. It didn't matter if someone collapsed. They were competing on who could last the longest anyway. He prayed that Xu Han wouldn't lose so quickly. He had to win no matter what, or he wouldn't have another precious chance. The selection was only available once every 10 years. 10 years wasn't a long time, but no one wanted to work for 10 years for nothing. Wasn't this the very reason why they had put in so much effort and dedication? Gu Yanlong looked at Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu, especially at Yi Tianyun. He felt that Yi Tianyun would definitely be able to hold on. At least he seemed to be more stable than Xu Han and the rest, and he might be able to get a better result. Soon, on the 6th day, Xu Han's body trembled and he fainted to the side. This time, both Xu Han and Xu Xiong failed. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu could still hold on, far surpassing Xu Han and Xu Xiong. Captain Xu Yuan, I'm sorry. You've lost this bet. Gu Yanlong's lips curled into a smile. He didn't expect that he would win completely and in such a thorough manner. He crushed the two of them in all aspects. They were not on the same level at all. Good. Xu Yuan glared at the two who had fainted in the distance. He took out a token and threw it to Gu Yanlong. He said coldly, "Here you go." After that, he didn't bother to pay attention to his people. He turned around and left, not even bothering to look at them. Not only did he lose a chance, but he also lost face. How could he be happy about that? At the same time, he glanced at Yi Tianyun and Lei Jingyu, planning to remember their faces. If he met them again in the future, he would definitely make things difficult for them. Gu Yanlong looked at his back as he left, then turned his attention back to Yi Tianyun and the rest. He wanted to see how long they could hold on. Finally, after the 6th day, Lei Jingyu's body trembled and he fainted to the side. On the 6th day, he finally passed out. 6 days? Gu Yanlong's eyes lit up. It was a good result to be able to hold on for 6 days. After the 6th day, most people had fainted. Less than 5 people were left out of the 30 or 40 people. This meant that Lei Jingyu had made it into the top 10, which was a shocking result. Who said that humans were inferior to other races? This was proof that the human race still had a lot of potential to be unearthed. When there were less than 5 people left, the situation was different. As long as they could hold on for one more day, the effect would be more and more different. Yi Tianyan opened his eyes slightly and looked around. Before he knew it, there were only 3 people left beside him. Chapter 893. There are only 4 people left in the field, including Yi Tianyan. It was only the 6th day, and there were only so many people left. It was undeniable that it was extremely difficult to break the record. Only then did everyone realize how difficult it was to break the record. Those cultivators who woke up shook their heads. They all thought that they could hold on for a long time, only to realize that the pain was unbearable. Although they knew that the longer they held on, the better the effect would be, the terrifying power was not something they could endure even if they wanted to. On the 7th day, Lei Jingyu woke up and looked at Yi Tianyan excitedly. Amazing, it's already the 7th day, and there are only 3 people left. Although he could not hold on for that long, he was still very excited to see Yi Tianyan hold on for so long. The main thing was that he had surpassed most of the people. How could he not be excited? I don't know who said that he would faint soon, but now, let alone brother Yi, even I can surpass all of you. Lei Jingyu turned his head and looked at Shu Han and Shu Xiong, who did not look too good. Both of them were meditating and adjusting their internal conditions. When they saw that Yi Tianyan could still hold on, they felt that it was incredible. Was this still the human they knew? So, what if you can hold on for a long time? The real strength is still in your fist. Shu Xiong waved his fist and said coldly, "When the time comes, fight me if you have what it takes. I want to see if holding on for a long time is enough to prove that you are strong. Let's fight. Even if brother Yi doesn't fight you, I will fight you." Lei Jingyu's eyes flashed with lightning. He had a rather special thunder attribute physique, which was somewhat inconsistent with his personality. His personality was still relatively gentle and kind, but his attribute was extremely destructive thunder attribute. Such a contrast was not small. Okay, that's what you said. Shu Xiong's eyes turned cold. Even if he lost in this aspect, he wanted to regain his dignity in other areas. I'm a man of my word. Let's talk about it after the assessment. Lei Jingyu looked at Yi Tianyan and said excitedly, "Who knows, brother, he might even break the record." "Dream on?" Shu Xiong mocked from his side. "What a joke. You think you can break the record? Do you think the record can be broken so easily? He can only hold on for one more day at most. If he continues for one more day, he will collapse." It was now the 7th day, and it seemed like most people were on the verge of collapsing. It seemed like they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. However, Yi Tianyan's conditions seemed to be stable. The others thought that he was pretending to be calm, but in reality, he was about to faint. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Lei Jingyu had confidence in Yi Tianyan. After all, he looked so calm. Yi Tianyan was indeed calm. He kept absorbing the astral powers around him to modify his body. He felt that there were too many places in his body that needed to be modified. He had already converted his spiritual power into astral power and started to modify the major meridians in his body. As the violent astral power surged into his body, his meridians began to expand, but the speed of expansion was rather slow. However, to him, it was good enough to expand his meridians. Based on his physical fitness, there was no way for him to expand his meridians. He was already strong to begin with, and it would be good if he could expand his meridians bit by bit. Then he realized that there was already a different scene in his energy center. It was a universe that was gradually forming, and a planet was forming in it, revolving in his body. This is a planet. Could it be that when the astral power condenses to a certain amount, it can condense into a planet? Yi Tianyan felt that this might be the way astral power explained it. Gradually, he could condense a galaxy in his body. As the astral power continued to surge into his body, the planet in his body began to form rapidly. Soon, it appeared on the ground and life began to grow. However, the life was limited to plants. There wouldn't be any animals or humanoid life forms. It was just simple flowers and trees. This was a rather magical change. Didn't this mean that a planet with life had appeared in his body, and he could transfer life into it in the future? This was not impossible, but he had to try it out later. While his body was undergoing changes, the outside world was in a state of shock. It was already the 8th day. In the entire assessment venue, only Tianyun was left. The others had all collapsed. When one of the cultivators woke up, her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at him. Then, she sat beside him and stabilized the condition of her body. This female cultivator was the second to collapse. She had almost lasted for 8 days, and it was already quite impressive that she could last for 7 days. However, she looked at Tianyun with some reluctance. She didn't expect that there would be someone who could last longer than her. Huh? I told you that, brother, he could last longer. He could only last for 1 more day. Now, he has exceeded the time limit. What do you guys say? Lei Jingyu's mouth was quite vicious, and he immediately started to retaliate. Xu Xiong and the others didn't look good. They didn't expect Tianyun to be able to last for so long. It was really beyond their imagination. Gu Yanlong, who was on the side, was smiling. Even if they didn't break the record, it was already beyond his expectations that 2 people could last for 7 days. After recruiting them, he would definitely get a lot of rewards. Although lasting longer had nothing to do with him, he would definitely be rewarded if he could recruit good new people. Not bad, not bad. I told you this kid is not simple. Gu Yanlong was very satisfied. If Xu Yuan was next to him, his face would definitely be extremely ugly. Lasting for 7 days was also a very good result in the entire Heavenly Mandate realm. At least, his future achievements would be much better than his. He could only last for 5 days back then, which was 2 days less than Tianyun. It was only 2 days, but the difference in treatment was like the clouds and mud. That was because if one could last for more than 7 days, he could directly become a core disciple, and he would be the focus of training. Tianyun didn't pay attention to the outside world and continued to persist. Soon, the days passed. The 8th day, the 9th day, the 10th day. Very soon, he reached the 10th day. As long as he could last for this day, his number of days would be the same as the record holder. Xu Xiong and the others were going crazy with jealousy. They all thought that they would faint on the 8th day, but they didn't expect that they could really last until the 10th day. It was simply incredible. If he could last until the 10th day, wouldn't he have a chance to become one of the heirs? Even if he couldn't become the heirs, his status was far beyond what they could compare with, and it made their hearts explode with jealousy. Why didn't such a good thing happen to them? Chapter 894. Gu Yanlong was about to go crazy with joy. He was ready to reach that record. If there was really a record holder, he would definitely get more benefits. If he broke the record, it was really unimaginable. This time, everyone was silent, quietly watching Tianyun meditating over there. Their eyes were extremely complicated. They really could not imagine that the human clan would be above them. Their bloodlines were so different, and the bloodline of the human clan was simply the garbage of the garbage, belonging to the most inconspicuous kind. In addition to having more people, there were not too many advantages. However, if they really compared the number of people, the human clan was not the most, but in terms of bloodline, it was indeed one of the low-level bloodlines. Why was there still a lot of bloodlines which were indeed classified as low-level bloodlines? The lower the bloodline, the more obvious it was with the improvement of cultivation. Or in other words, the difference appeared when they were young. Whether it was talent or growth, there was a huge difference. For example, with the cultivation of the evil spirit clan at the Saint King stage, it was possible to fight with the human clan at the Divine King stage. That was the difference. Now it was almost the 10th day, which was incredible. The key point was that he seemed to be able to continue. At least it seemed that Tianyun was in a stable condition, his breath was not chaotic, and he was quite stable when he meditated there. Will he really reach the 10th day? They all looked at each other and felt that it was a little unreal. If so, He would be the second existence to create a record of 10 days. If it was close, it would not be a problem. But if it was the same, they could not believe it. But the truth was so cruel to them. The 10th day was easily reached, and Yun became the second existence to reach 10 days in the heavenly mandate divine realm. He really reached it? They were stunned, and they all thought that at the last moment, Yun would faint. However, he did not faint, and he just held on and entered the 10th day. The smile on the corner of Gu Yanlong's mouth was even more brilliant. 10 days, a whole 10 days. Just like that, Yun became the second disciple to reach 10 days, which meant that his future was promising, and he would soon enter the key training targets. I said that, brother, he would definitely reach 10 days. Did you see that? He could only last for 2 days. Now, he has twice as much time as you. Lei Jingyu jumped up in joy, but when he looked at Xu Xiong's side, their expressions became even uglier. They were roaring in their hearts. How did Yun manage to persevere till the 10th day? It was a result that they could never achieve. This time, they had been slapped in the face heavily. They all remained silent, unable to refute a single word. Winner takes all. They were the losers, and they had lost completely. What happened next made them collapse. They thought that Yun would be done very soon. After all, this was the highest record. No one could surpass this record. However, reality slapped them hard in the face. Very soon, Yun entered the 11th day, setting a new record. Not only did he enter the 11th day, he quickly entered the 12th day, then the 13th day. If they hadn't seen Yun's endless energy flowing into his body, they would have thought that Yun was already dead. Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? This has been the 13th day. Is he a freak? Or does he have the bloodline of some other high-level race? Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? Yes, he can't be a human. Otherwise, how could he have held on for so long? None of them believed that he had the bloodline of a human. If he did, how could he have held on for so long? However, Yun did indeed have the bloodline of a human. Even the bloodline of the King of the Heavens was also a human. Saying that he had the bloodline of the King of the Heavens was just because he had the talent of a powerhouse in it. When they came here, they realized that the so-called bloodline of the King of the Heavens was just a common thing. Moreover, they weren't called King of the Heavens here, but a Star Lord. They were considered ordinary existences in the deity domain. It was worth a lot of money in the ordinary realm, but it was worthless here. He does have the bloodline of a human. Gu Yanlong, who was at the side, confirmed and said, although I can feel that his aura is mixed with other powers, it is an indisputable fact that he has the bloodline of a human. Don't find other reasons to console yourself for your failure. He is a human. Don't find excuses for yourself. Gu Yanlong gave them a hard blow, leaving them speechless. The human race, which they had belittled to the point of being worthless, was now stepping on their heads and creating a new record. Finally, on the 14th day, Yun slowly opened his eyes. The astral power in his body had been completely converted. There was basically no other place for it to be converted. The planet in his body was full of vitality. It was like a world with towering trees and all kinds of plants. I can't reform myself anymore if I continue to absorb it? Yun woke up not because he couldn't take it, but because the transformation in his body had been completed. If he continued to absorb astral power, it would be the same as cultivating outside. He would simply absorb astral power from the outside to strengthen himself. However, the astral power that Yun absorbed was converted into experience points, unlike other cultivators who used it to strengthen themselves bit by bit. To put it bluntly, he had completed the transformation and hadn't fainted. This made him feel strange. He thought that he could persist for a long time. Who knew that after the transformation was completed, there was nothing left to reform? Could it be that if I complete the transformation in the divine territory for the first time, it would pave the way for the future? Yun felt like he was being cheated. If he persisted for a long time, he would be able to completely transform his body in advance and adapt to the divine territory faster. It didn't mean that he could continue to transform his body if he persisted for a few months. Wouldn't he be invincible? That wasn't the answer at all. It was a very simple transformation of his body. If he had fainted a few days ago, he would need to slowly adapt and spend more time to reach the standard of complete transformation. However, this was like a race against time. He would have more time than others. Immediately, Etienne stood up gloomily and walked out. At this moment, he realized that the cultivators around him were staring at him with their mouths agape, including Guyan Long. Not only did he persist for 14 days, he could even walk out casually as though he was walking into his own house. This was the first time Guyan Long had seen someone who could persist to this extent and walk out casually. Why didn't you faint? Shu Xiong was dumbfounded. Chapter 895. No one expected Etienne to be able to walk out of the array without fainting. They all agreed that either they could not hold on and fainted, or they could continue to hold on. There was no third scenario. Etienne showed a third situation. That is, he walked out of the great array, and it looked very easy. Brother E, are you all right? Lei Jingyu came over and asked in surprise. What could happen to me? Etienne looked at him from head to toe, smiled and said, Speaking of which, you persevered for 6 days. Not bad. Although he had been meditating to absorb astral power, it did not mean that he did not pay attention to the situation around him. He was aware of the situation outside, and any movement was clear to him. As for what the people outside were saying, he could not be bothered to pay attention to it. He just covered the range of the array with his spiritual sense. The main thing was that he wanted to know the situation around him and see his opponent's situation. He could not be bothered with the discussions outside. It would be better to use this effort on devouring energy. Brother E, you are flattering me. You broke the record, 14 days. You even exceeded the previous record of 4 days. Lei Jingyu was overjoyed. You don't know, the way those guys look at you has changed. I find it funny just thinking about it. Brother E, you really brought glory to the human race. Is that so? Etienne looked up at Shu Xiong and said with a faint smile, Previously, you said that the two of us would be finished in less than 2 days. Now you tell me how many days you have persevered. He had always liked to slap people's faces, no matter how they mocked him before. Now he would fight back. Persevered for a long time does not mean that you are strong. If you have the ability, fight me. Shu Xiong stood up, looked at Etienne with eyes full of fanaticism. If he could defeat Etienne in 14 days, then even if he persevered for 14 days, he would still be a pile of shit in front of him. Etienne looked at Guyan Long and inquired, Lord Gu, can we have a duel here? Logically speaking, duels were not allowed here. Guyan Long smiled and said, No problem. I allow you to duel here, but don't go overboard. Don't kill each other. You are all new disciples of the heavenly mandate divine realm, and you are already fellow disciples. You should not kill each other. That's not a problem. I'll go easy on you. Etienne smiled. Show mercy? You make it sound nice, but I want to see how you will show mercy to me. Shu Xiong was enraged, and so was Shu Han. They looked at Etienne in a different light. They were shocked before, but now they all wanted to step on Etienne. This was an existence that had persisted for 14 days. If they were to defeat it, wouldn't the glory be theirs? Rumor had it that the longer one persisted, the stronger one's power would be. If they were to defeat someone who persisted for about 3 or 4 days, it would be telling others that persisting for 14 days was useless. Immediately, the cultivators around them made space for them to duel. Guyan Long allowed them to do whatever they wanted because he was giving face to Etienne. He also wanted to see how strong Etienne was. With his strength, he could prevent many things from happening, and everything would be under his control. Make your move, lest you say that I didn't give you a chance to fight when I defeat you. I should say that, lest others say that I didn't give you a chance, human. At this time, Shu Xiong became arrogant again, thinking that Etienne was a piece of trash that he could easily defeat. Is that so? Thank you for giving me a chance. Etienne looked at him and smiled gently. Can I make my move now? Yes, boom. Etienne stepped on the ground and instantly disappeared. His speed was so fast that even Gu Yanlong couldn't see him clearly. Bang! The next moment, Yi Tianyan appeared in front of Xu Xiong and kicked him, sending Xu Xiong flying with a kick. Ah! Along with a scream, Xu Xiong was sent flying and finally slammed against the wall. The tree branches on his body were shattered. Even though he had thick tree bark on his body, the kick still left a deep dent on his body. It looked like the kick almost pierced through his body. Then, Xu Xiong fell from the wall and hit the ground, twitching nonstop. Green blood kept spurting out of his mouth, and he passed out. Not bad, I've improved a lot. I feel much stronger than when I first came in. Yi Tianyan looked inside his body, and the appraisal, I quickly revealed the overall situation. After energy conversion, my overall strength has increased by 3 times. My body has been strengthened by 2 times, and my meridians have been strengthened by 3 times. Energy has been converted into brand new star power, and the efficiency of anything I use has increased by 3 times. Overall combat power is 6,300 star power. 6,300 star power, when converted to his previous combat power, was already equivalent to 630 billion combat power. This was still under normal circumstances. If he erupted, how terrifying would he be? Looking at the cultivation of the other Starry Lords, for example, Xu Xiong was a level 5 Starry Lord, but his overall combat power was only 2,300 star power. Another example was a level 8 Starry Lord who was the same cultivation as him, but he only had 3,200 star power. He had 3,000 more star power than them, and this difference was terrifying. Even peak Starry Lords weren't as strong as him. Only that Gu Yanlong was much stronger than him. He was just a second refinement Earth Monarch, and he already had 20,000 star power. The difference was too big. Indeed, after crossing a major realm, the effect was usually a crushing one. Unless one was extremely heaven-defying, it was impossible to fight someone who was a few levels higher. It was already good enough to escape, but it was impossible to defeat the other party. I didn't expect that after converting star power, there would be such a shocking change. Yi Tianyan was shocked. Previously, when he updated the system, he realized that his star power was only slightly more than 3,800, close to 4,000 star power. To put it bluntly, he was not much stronger than that guy. They had powerful bloodlines, and it was easy to pull them back. Now, after his transformation, he had an additional 3,000 star power. This was just the data on the surface, and the various powers could only be felt when they erupted. The data given by the appraisal, I was only superficial, and it wouldn't be too deep. It could be said that it was only a reference type, but who could be sure when it erupted? Things like taking medicine, treasures, and exploding bloodlines were hard to say. Chapter 896. Xu Xiong exploded with one kick. If Gu Yanlong had not said not to kill, Xu Xiong would have become a pile of useless firewood, ready to be used as fuel. Everyone was flabbergasted. Even if Xu Xiong's cultivation was not top-notch, he was at least a 5th-layer star venerate. Yet he exploded with one kick. Of course, Xu Xiong had been careless, but it was too easy for him to be killed in an instant. Brother Yi, good job. Lei Jingyu was very excited. He almost wanted to rush over and hug Yi Tianyan. This was very satisfying. He wanted to kill these arrogant bastards. Gu Yanlong's eyes flashed. He had not expected to be dealt with so easily. That speed was too shocking. Even he felt that it was too fast. Not bad, not bad. I was right about you. Gu Yanlong admired Yi Tianyan. As for that Xu Xiong, he could not be bothered with him. In any case, it was fine as long as Xu Xiong was not killed. As for him being crippled, that had nothing to do with him. You were so heavy-handed. After Xu Han reacted, he quickly ran to Xu Xiong's side and picked him up. After checking, he found that many of Xu Xiong's bones were broken. He was basically half-crippled. Xu Han glared at Yi Tianyan angrily. This is just a sparring session. How could you be so heavy-handed? Heavy-handed? How could I have known that he would be so weak, reduced to such a state with one kick? Furthermore, he was the one who said to let me attack first, so I did as I pleased, Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Who knew that your tree race is so weak? These words enraged Shu Han. He quickly shouted at Gu Yanlong. Lord Gu, he was heavy-handed on purpose, trying to kill Shu Xiong. As long as he is not dead, it is not a violation of the rules. Fists and kicks have no eyes. No one can control them, Gu Yanlong replied indifferently. This was not favoring Yi Tianyun. It was the same for fights outside. Fists and kicks had no eyes, and serious injuries were common. As long as one was not dead, it was not a violation of the rules. Shu Han looked at his unconscious companion, not knowing what to say. Since you don't like my methods, do you want to avenge your companions? Didn't you say that we humans are trash? Why don't you compete with me and see who's the real trash? Yi Tianyun looked at Shu Han and motioned for him to come forward and compete with him. He was still not stingy in slapping his face. It was time to repay the debt from before. He was not a good person. Since her mouth was cheap, she had to obediently move her face forward and let him slap her. So be it. Shu Han stood up angrily. He felt that Shu Xiong had been too careless. Otherwise, he would not have been defeated so quickly. After he stood up, he quickly took out a low-grade divine tool and said to Yi Tianyun coldly, I will let you know who you are and what kind of position you are standing in. Are you done? Yi Tianyun said calmly, Can we start now? Come, Shu Han said angrily. Since you are trash, I will attack first, just like Shu Xiong, just in case I don't give you a chance. As he spoke, thick armor surged from Shu Han's body. Tree vines emerged from all over his body and wrapped him up tightly. A strong life force continuously surged out from their bodies. This was the special effect of their bloodline, which was a super strong healing ability and a very strong defense. Just their armor alone was comparable to a low-grade divine artifact. They indeed had the capital to be arrogant. Swoosh! Yi Tianyun still did not hold back. Since he was asked to attack first, he would attack first. Shu Han only saw a flash before his eyes. The next moment, he felt as if his chest was about to be shattered. His entire body flew backward and hit the wall. He vomited blood and fainted. Before he fainted, he felt as if all the bones in his chest were broken. The armor on the surface was like a piece of paper that was broken with one kick. Shu Han and Shu Xiong were both lying on the ground, unable to move. They had both fainted and could not move even if they wanted to. Everyone looked at the two of them, dumbfounded. If Shu Xiong was not prepared and was killed instantly due to carelessness, it would be reasonable. Now that Shu Han was fully prepared and even had armor on his body, he was still easily killed. This could only mean one thing. Yi Tianyun was much stronger than them. Anyone else who is dissatisfied with the human race, come forward. Yi Tianyun glanced around coldly, wanting to see who was looking down on them. You think you were strong after defeating 2 tree men? At this time, the rock giant walked out. His body was covered in hard rocks, which looked much harder than the tree men. Dong, 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 sounds of footsteps could be heard, and the ground was shaking from his footsteps. This person was called Yin Feng, a member of the rock tribe. Yi Tianyun looked him up and down. He had seen this person before. To be able to last until the 6th day, he was considered quite good. The greatest advantages of the rock tribe bloodline were his strength and defense. I don't think so. I just want them to keep their mouths shut. Yi Tianyun looked at him indifferently and said, What about you? What do you want to say? I don't want to say anything. I just want to see what you are capable of. Yin Feng simply wants to challenge Yi Tianyun. He wants to trample on him before Yi Tianyun leaves. He wants to show off his power. The others were not intimidated by Yi Tianyun. Their eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Their cultivation was much stronger than Shu Han's. For example, Yin Feng was a 9th stage Star Lord, which was a relatively high cultivation. Oh, I'm not interested. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered with him. Are you humans all so timid and afraid of trouble? You only know how to bully the weak and fear the strong. Yin Feng mocked. Bully the weak and fear the strong? Yi Tianyun turned his head and smiled at him. It seems that all of you want to step on me and use me as a stepping stone to climb higher? Fine, I will fulfill your wish. If you want to lie on the bed for a few years, I don't mind. Brat, it seems that you are really arrogant. Do you think you are invincible just because you broke the armor of the two tree men? Yin Feng patted his chest and sneered. If you can break this armor of mine, I'll consider it my loss. Tianyan looked him up and down. He had to admit that the strength of the rock tribe was defense. With the appraisal eye, the armor on his body was comparable to a medial grade divine artifact. If he used it fully, it would probably be as hard as a superior grade divine artifact. So, it's a shield. Are you ready? Tianyan asked indifferently. I've been ready for a long time. Don't use too much force. Be careful, or you might cripple your feet. Boom. Before Yin Feng finished speaking, his huge body was kicked away. The stone on his chest was smashed into pieces. His huge body was almost turned into a pile of rubble. Chapter 897. Just like that, Yin Feng exploded with one kick. His outcome was no different from Shu Han and the others. In fact, it was even more severe. Broken rocks littered the ground, looking very tragic. Everyone was dumbfounded. An 8th-layer star Venerate could still be killed in an instant. This was too incredible. Furthermore, it was such a tough rock race. Yet he could still be killed in an instant. This was unbelievable. This strength is too strong. That's the rock race. That's right. I saw a fight earlier. A cultivator kept using his weapon to hack at the rock race, but he did not even leave a mark. His toughness is simply too scary. In the same cultivation realm, he is basically invincible. However, no matter how invincible he is, he still exploded with one kick. Could he have already broken through to the Earth Monarch level? Impossible. If he was an Earth Monarch, we would have sensed it long ago. At most, he would be a 6th-layer star Venerate. He could not possibly be an Earth Monarch. One by one, they wanted to continue to challenge Tianyan, but they immediately felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured on them, and their hearts froze. Who would dare to challenge Tianyan now? Whoever dared to challenge him would end up like the other three, lying on the ground obediently. They were not dead, but they were severely injured and could not even get up. It looked like they would not be able to get out of bed easily without recuperating for a few years. Tianyan never showed mercy. If not for the fact that he could not kill, they would have become 3 corpses long ago. Since he could not kill them, he could only use the most violent force to break their bones and meridians. It was that simple. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Tianyan looked at the crowd coldly. Under his cold gaze, some cultivators could not help but take a step back, not daring to get close to him. Just his aura alone frightened them. He was like an unsheathed divine sword, showing off its sharpness. Soon after, all of them fell silent. One of the women who was meditating at the side raised her head and glanced over, but didn't say anything. She had lasted the longest, which proved that her strength was extraordinary. However, she did not intend to challenge Tianyan. She only sized him up curiously. "Brother E, you are amazing." Lei Jingyu came over excitedly and patted his shoulder. "The rock tribe is so powerful, but they were still destroyed by your kick. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to kick them at all." Lei Jingyu's strength was not bad, but his cultivation was still a far cry from Yin Feng's. Gu Yanlong walked over, looked at them, and said, "If no one wants to continue fighting, then I now announce that all of you have officially become disciples of the heavenly mandate divine realm. Those who persist for more than 7 days will directly become core disciples." Those who persisted for more than 7 days would become core disciples. Each and every one of them looked at Tianyan and the other mysterious girl with envy. Even if they did not know the benefits of becoming a core disciple, they could imagine that it was definitely much better than becoming an official disciple. As for those who persist for more than 5 days, they will be able to become inner palace disciples. Their futures will also be limitless. Gu Yanlong smiled at them. The harvest this time was truly not small. After that, Gu Yanlong led them through a long walkway and arrived at another hall. However, the hall outside was different. There were many cultivators coming and going here, and they were all accepting tasks at the side. This was actually a task hall. If one wanted to earn contribution points, they had to complete tasks here. This was basically something that everyone had. If they did not do this, how could they strengthen their forces? They did not want to raise a group of freeloaders. If they did not do this, they would run out of resources sooner or later. Official disciples, go over there to get your token. Inner palace disciples who persist for more than 5 days, come over here to get your token. Core disciples, come over here to get your token. Gu Yanlong led them to get their tokens. Each of them received their corresponding token, which had their names engraved on it. After getting his token, Yi Tianyun saw that his token was made of a special material, and it was a very precious material. This token was a large storage space. There was an extremely large space inside, and it could hold many things. The key was that when he got it, he could immediately sense the situation of the surrounding tokens. He could roughly feel how far away they were. Your token has the ability to identify your own people. Whether it is for rescue or doing tasks together, you can do it through this token, Gu Yanlong said in a deep voice. This is your identification. If you lose your token, no matter what level you are, you will be kicked out of the heavenly mandate divine realm. The token is equivalent to your life. If you lose it, you will lose your life. Of course, if someone deliberately disappears and is found, they will be executed directly by capital punishment. Everyone's expression changed. If they lost their token, wouldn't they be kicked out? Wasn't this condition a bit too strict? Yi Tianyun did not think there was anything too strict about it. Unless they were dead, they would not lose their token. If they lost it like this, they would indeed be too ashamed to continue staying in this force. Then you two come with me. The others will take you to the corresponding places. Gu Yanlong gestured for Yi Tianyun and the mysterious woman to follow him. Brother Yi, congratulations on becoming a core disciple. But if you leave like this, I don't know when we will meet again. Lei Jingyu stopped Yi Tianyun. Although they just met not long ago, they were all humans. They were all discriminated against here. It would be best if they could stay in the same place. However, core disciples and inner palace disciples definitely wouldn't stay in the same place. We will, but no matter what, we must not forget the dignity of humans. Yi Tianyun smiled at him. Yes, the dignity of the human race. Lei Jingyu patted his chest. No matter what, he could not lose his dignity. After saying that, they separated, and Gu Yanlong led them out of the hall. Walking out of the hall, the outside world was filled with many bustling buildings. There were many cultivators coming and going in the distance, but their cultivation was not high. Most of them were at the Spirit King stage, which meant that they were all outer disciples, and they were all working hard. When they walked forward, Gu Yanlong turned to look at the mysterious woman and said happily, Yurong, your result this time is not bad. Your father will be very happy. Not bad, but I did not reach the 10 days record, and I am not the first, Gu Yurong said indifferently. She did not show any surprise. Instead, she looked a little disappointed. At least you have reached the core disciple level. Gu Yanlong smiled. It's all thanks to your guidance, uncle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to reach the standard. Gu Yurong's eyes were filled with gratitude. Uncle? Chapter 898. Yi Tianyun looked up and down at the two of them, and when he looked carefully, he found that they really have a little relationship. For example, Gu Yanlong had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. As for this mysterious woman, she also had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. However, he did not expect her to be from the outside. He thought she would be born in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and the result would be better. It could only mean that they were of the same origin. Even if Gu Yanlong was the captain here, he did not have the power to move his clansmen here. The star power in the divine realm was very rich, and it was much better to cultivate here than in the outside world of Fanyu. The outside world absorbed spiritual power, while here absorbed star power. The difference was obviously different. No, these are all your own efforts. I just gave you a little guidance. Compared to me in the past, you have better results. If you continue to work hard, you will have a chance to become an elder in the future. Gu Yanlong was very satisfied with his niece. I will work harder. Gu Yurong nodded heavily, her eyes full of determination. Gu Yanlong turned to look at Yi Tianyun and said, I believe you can see that this is my niece, Gu Yurong. You two should get to know each other. From now on, you will be in the same sect. Take care of each other. Hello, I am Guyurong. Take care of me in the future. Guyurong bowed and nodded politely. Well, my name is Etianyan. Take care of me in the future. Etianyan smiled politely. At least they did not look down on humans like those other races. After a simple introduction, Gu Yanlong brought them to the teleportation array outside the main hall. He took them up and said, "When you go to the main hall where the core disciples are, you must pay attention to everything. There are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons inside, especially Etianyan. I have to say that this time you have made a record, and you will indeed be valued. But remember, do not be too complacent. Your level is very good, and your future is limitless. But as you saw just now, many people want to step on you. This record of yours is your strength, but it's also your trouble. Keep a low profile when you get there. It will be of great benefit to you." Gu Yanlong reminded him earnestly, like an elder. "Lord Gu, I will. However, Lord Gu, it seems that you don't really dislike humans?" Etianyan was a little curious about this. After all, everyone was full of discrimination towards him just now. "It's a long story. In short, I don't hate the human race. I have friends among the human race, but they aren't here for the time being. I don't know where they went." Gu Yanlong shook his head, a look of nostalgia in his eyes. "Back then, we took the examination together and became disciples here. Later on, they did leave this place and chose to travel further away. Let's not talk about this. I almost forgot that this is a gift for you too." Gu Yanlong took out 2 tokens and handed them to the 2 of them. He explained, "These are the selection tokens. After you report to the core hall, you can go to the selection hall and choose the treasure you like. It's a greeting gift." This token was won by Gu Yanlong from the bet with Tree Yuan. The other token was a greeting gift for his niece. Selection hall? Gu Yurong was very excited. She said, "Thank you, uncle." Etianyan was not familiar with it. Seeing Gu Yurong's excitement, he knew that it was not simple. "Thank you, Lord Gu." Etianyan also expressed his gratitude. "You don't need to thank me. You fought for it yourself. After all, you won it from the bet with Tree Yuan. You won it from the bet, so you fought for it yourself." Gu Yanlong said with a smile. "No matter what, Lord Gu is taking care of me by giving me the selection token." Etianyan said with a smile. "All right, let's not talk too much. I can get a lot of benefits from recruiting a record-breaking existence like you. As a matter of fact, I also got some benefits from you. You don't need to thank me." Gu Yanlong reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He smiled faintly and said, "You two go ahead. I'll see you off here. I can't go inside." They nodded. When they were about to leave, Gu Yanlong thought of something. He turned to them and added, "By the way, be careful when you go to the selection hall. It's a rare opportunity. If you can improve yourselves first, you need luck and opportunities there. Of course, the most important thing is your own strength." After that, he turned around and left, not wanting to stay any longer. His responsibility was to manage the passage there. He couldn't interfere with the situation here, so he didn't need to go in. After Gu Yanlong left, Gu Yurong didn't say anything to Etianyan. She just walked in with a straight face. It seemed that she had nothing to talk to him about. They were not familiar with each other. Gu Yanlong was just being polite when he said that he would take care of her. As for what Gu Yurong would do, it was her own business. At least for now, it seemed that Gu Yurong wasn't so enthusiastic. Etianyan didn't say much to her. He didn't want to be embarrassed and have nothing to talk about. After they walked out of the teleportation matrix, they walked forward. Before they reached the core hall, they could see a huge palace in front of them. It was not so much a palace, but a huge city, a city that stretched as far as the eye could see. This place doesn't seem to belong to the same place anymore, does it? Etianyan looked around and felt that this place was completely different. They were not on the same planet. "It seems that you don't know much about the heavenly mandate divine realm." Gu Yurong glanced at him and said while walking forward, "There are countless planets in the heavenly mandate divine realm, and there is only one city on each planet. The place we were at before was called the Guardian Star, and now we are at the Nuclear Star. It is a place for core disciples to live. Of course, There are many other planets, which are equivalent to cities. You can go to them through the teleportation matrix or the spirit ship. Gu Yurong didn't seem to be close to him, but she was still very serious when she answered. As expected of the divine realm, this is really a big deal, one planet and one city. He had just searched around with his spiritual consciousness and found that it was many times larger than the mortal realm. There was only one city on such a big planet. This was simply too extravagant. Wouldn't the area that each person lived in be terrifyingly large? The huge city in front of him was the best proof. Chapter 899. Identity Token. As soon as Tianyun and Gu Yurong walked over, the guard immediately intercepted them. He stared at them fiercely, and an intimidating aura immediately pressed down. This was a First Refinement Earth Lord, and he was guarding the door here. Although he was a First Refinement Earth Lord, Tianyun knew that these cultivators had basically reached their limit. It was quite difficult for them to move forward. They only served as guards to gain some contribution points, so that they could exchange for other things to improve their cultivation. Tianyun and Gu Yurong both took out the core disciple token. The guard took it and checked it. When he saw the token in Tianyun's hand, he was immediately dumbfounded. You lasted for 14 days? The guard looked at the information on the token in disbelief. Not to mention the guard. Even the person who made the token for Tianyun wondered if he had seen it wrong. How could there be someone who lasted for 14 days? The highest record was only 10 days. Now, he had exceeded the highest record by 4 days. How could he not be shocked? In the end, Gu Yanlong provided evidence. Only then did the guard believe Gu Yanlong's words. Otherwise, he really would not believe it. That evidence was the recording disc, which could completely record the scene. There was basically no way to fake it. Every time, Gu Yanlong had to record it and provide it when making the token. If there was a particularly outstanding one, he had to submit it to the elder level. Otherwise, who would be willing to believe Gu Yanlong's words? Yes, what's the problem? This was not the first time Tianyun had seen such an expression. Was it so shocking? So many cultivators, and only one exceeded 10 days? However, Gu Yanlong's target was the heavenly mandate realm. As for whether there were other divine realms that exceeded the other number, it was another matter. At least in the heavenly mandate realm, only Tianyun had exceeded 10 days. No problem. Please come in. The guard's attitude was completely different. His eyes were full of admiration, which was a great change from before. This made Tianyun shake his head. If he had kept a low profile, would he have been able to enjoy such treatment? Beside her, Gu Yurong sighed deeply. How she wished that she was the one to receive such treatment. If she could get such treatment, she would be able to bring her family over. Unfortunately, it wasn't her. After the two of them entered, they had only taken a few steps when someone immediately rushed out from inside. The first to come out were two old men. Their hair was messy, but their eyes were filled with golden light. They looked at Tianyun from head to toe, as if they were looking at a treasure. It's unbelievable that this human brat can persist for 14 days. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Very few people can achieve such a result in 14 days. I didn't expect one to appear in our heavenly mandate divine realm. Let me take this kid as my disciple. No, old man you, let me take him as my disciple. Bah! Become my disciple. My level is higher than yours. Bullsh asterisk T. You think your level is higher than mine? Do you want to compare who's better now? The two of them had just come out and immediately began to quarrel. When the disciples who were passing by heard the content of the quarrel, they were all dumbfounded. What's going on? Persisting for 14 days? What thing lasted for 14 days? Could it be that the baptism of the divine realm lasted for 14 days? How? How is this possible? The record has always been 10 days. How could it have lasted for 14 days? But the two elders said so. It can't be false. God, a monster that lasted for 14 days, and it's a human? A human? How is this possible? The worst race can actually last for 14 days? For a moment, the sound of discussion exploded. Some of it was transmitted to the core hall, letting them know that a monster had come. But after everyone heard it, they felt that it was unbelievable. How could there be such a monster in the human race? Logically speaking, it was impossible. But why would the two elders lie? Especially when they were fighting to become their disciples. This was a situation that had never been seen before. Unless one made it into the top 10 of the core hall, one would not be qualified to be accepted as a disciple by the two elders. Moreover, it was just a chance to be in the top 10 or top 3, but it was not absolute. Now that they had just arrived at the core hall, they were already fighting so hard. One by one, they came out to take a look. They wanted to see what kind of god could actually persist for so long. In just a moment, the entrance of the core hall was filled with people. There were at least a few hundred people here. These were all people who had persisted for 7 days. None of them were ordinary people. It was just that they didn't expect so many people to persist for 7 days. Tianyin looked at the two old men in front of him and was very surprised. Their cultivation had actually reached the level of the Lord of Heaven. The key was that they were both Lord of Heaven, and they were at the same level, but the combat power they displayed was completely different. Yu Yanglong, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yang energy, can burn all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 250,000 star power. Ming Yueqing, Lord of Heaven level 3 cultivation, has a powerful and pure yin and cold energy, can freeze all objects. Weakness, restrained by yin and cold objects. Overall combat power, 220,000 star power. The two were mutually restraining existences, but the key was that there was such a huge difference in combat power, which made him feel very strange. This was a difference of 30,000 star power. If converted, it would be 3 trillion combat power. So there is such a thing. Tianyin saw the detailed content with the appraisal eye, which was specially marked in small words. Yu Yanglong broke through to the 8th refinement Earth Monarch, while Ming Yueqing broke through to the 7th refinement Earth Monarch. Different levels of breakthrough, but the difference is so shocking. Tianyin was a little surprised. It seemed that he had to carefully understand this aspect. There were too many things he was not clear about. Since he came to this divine domain, he had to carefully understand it. Forget it. No more quarreling. Let him choose who his master is that okay? All right, that's a good idea. Let him choose. The two turned to look at Tianyin, stared at him and asked, "Say it. Who do you want to choose as your master?" When the surrounding people saw the situation, they were so jealous that they almost exploded. Why could they choose their own master? They were chosen, and they might not even be chosen. Wasn't the difference a little too big? Chapter 900. The two incomparably powerful heavenly monarchs stared at Tianyin. With their terrifying combat power, they could easily crush Tianyin with just a finger. After his cultivation increased, his combat power was really explosive. 250,000 star power, and that was under normal circumstances. If he were to unleash all his star power, wouldn't he be able to reach 300,000 star power? Just thinking about it is terrifying. He can probably destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, right? When Tianyin was in the 3 realms, he already felt that a divine king could destroy the 3 realms. In fact, it was almost the same. Although he could not destroy the 3 realms with a flip of his hand, he could still destroy it with a little effort. As for breaking through to the level of a Lord of Heaven, he would be an existence that could completely crush the 3 realms with a flip of his hand. Destroying a world with a punch was not a joke. He then looked at the 2 Lord of Heaven and smiled. How about this? Both of you become my masters. Wouldn't that be perfect? The 2 of them were stunned. The others were even more dumbfounded. Some even started scolding him. This kid is too arrogant. He's just breaking a record, and he wants to choose 2 masters. That's right. It would be a joke if he angered the 2 masters. Is he sure he can accept 2 masters? What a joke. What an idiot. He's just a human, and yet he's so arrogant. I really can't stand him. If the 2 elders weren't here, I would really challenge him. Every single one of them was filled with jealousy and dissatisfaction. The fact that he was a human to begin with was already enough to make them feel dissatisfied. Now, he was even so arrogant and had chosen 2 masters. They were unhappy, but Yun would not be satisfied. He had just arrived and definitely needed the two masters to guide him. They were the Lord of Heaven. If he had two masters, he would have a stronger backing. He was not a fool. There was no need to throw them away and say that he didn't need masters. Even if he would surpass them in the future, he was much weaker than the two elders now. With them as his backing, he would definitely be able to do things. The two elders looked at him with furrowed brows and said, "Brat, aren't you a bit too greedy? Looks like you don't know about our situation. Our attributes are completely incompatible. Either we cultivate the power of ice with him, or we cultivate the power of fire with me. The two are completely incompatible. Being able to cultivate even one of them is already very good." "That's right. You can be arrogant if you have some ability, but you're wrong. He is too greedy. How can he cultivate such a Tao heart?" Their impression of Yun immediately plummeted. Sometimes, people shouldn't be too greedy. If they were too greedy, problems would easily arise. More haste, less speed. Everything had to be done slowly. The cultivators around them immediately revealed mocking expressions. They were very happy to see such a scene. It was obvious that the two masters were unhappy. If he had chosen any of the teachers, he would have offended one of them at most. However, if he had been too greedy now, he would have offended both of them. "Ha, are you an idiot? This is going to be fun. I've offended the two elders." Sure enough, stupidity depends on the race. That's right. Let's see how he answers. He doesn't please either side. He's really too stupid. They felt that Yun was really an idiot. Especially when they heard the two elders' words. They laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. They wished that the two elders would give up on Yun and not take him as a disciple. Gu Yurong shook her head in disappointment. Sure enough, he became arrogant after obtaining some results. She felt that it was a pity. If this continued, he would be crippled sooner or later. "Elders, this junior can cultivate two kinds of flames. My foundation is not bad. That's why I thought of asking the two elders to become this junior's master. It's not that this junior is greedy. It's just that this junior can cultivate like this." Yun's expression did not change. He still maintained a faint smile. Everything was under his control. "What? You can cultivate two kinds of flames?" The two elders looked at each other. Yu Yanglong frowned and said, "Yin and Yang flames cannot coexist." "Are you sure you can coexist? Or should I say, the flames he cultivates are all ordinary?" Yun didn't use his mouth to explain. Instead, he raised his left hand and gently opened it. With a whoosh sound, the immortal fire rose up, causing the surrounding temperature to rise sharply. Immediately, he opened his right hand again. With a whoosh sound, the heavenly Yin fire also rushed out, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. One hot and one cold, two extreme flames, especially when they were upgraded to high-rank heavenly fire, which belonged to the max level. Previously, when he was refining tools, he had already upgraded it to the max level. It can be said that it was completely impossible to upgrade it. Even if it wasn't at the max level before, he used his proficiency to smash it to the max level. After all, these two kinds of flames belong to the high level. If he could upgrade it to the max level, he would do so. For him, refining tools and alchemy were of great help. Heavenly Yin fire was a very good choice for alchemy. It was even better than the immortal fire. After Yin released the two kinds of flames, he also let the two kinds of flames overlap without any conflict. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their eyes. They all knew about these two kinds of flames. Even if the name was different, the effect was absolutely clear. What? Heavenly Yin fire and immortal fire? Two kinds of flames? Yu Yanglong and Ming Yueqing were both dumbfounded. They felt that it was inconceivable. These two kinds of flames were mutually exclusive, yet they both existed in the same person. In fact, even if they were mutually exclusive, it was impossible for one side to be quite strong. This would easily cause a conflict which could lead to an explosion. This kind of situation was not unheard of. Therefore, it was basically impossible to see two kinds of flames that were mutually exclusive. Otherwise, the two of them wouldn't feel dissatisfied. Because this matter was impossible, when Tianyin said that he wanted them to become his master, they felt very unhappy. I don't know, two elders. Can I become your disciple like this? Tianyin looked at their shocked expression and felt quite satisfied. This was all within his expectations. Others also reacted. Their hearts were filled with shock. The previous ridicule had turned into shock, but even more so, they couldn't believe it. They even suspected that their eyes were playing tricks on them. This is not a problem at all. It's really a miracle. How'd you do it? You actually cultivated two kinds of fan you extreme flames to this level. If you let the two of us cultivate you, you may become the first powerhouse to have dual extreme ice and fire energy. Chapter 901. Ahem. I don't know if the two elders have any objections to becoming this junior's master. Do you think this junior is just talking big? This junior is not talking nonsense. I just think that if I want to have some achievements in this area, I would like to try it out. I just don't know if it's possible. Tianyin's tone was neither servile nor overbearing, without the slightest bit of arrogance. He was completely a young man who loved to cultivate. Of course. We weren't too clear just now and thought that you were biting off more than you could chew, but it turns out you have a special ability in this area. Yu Yanglong was pleasantly surprised. He immediately turned to Ming Yueqing and said, Old Ming, should we teach him together? Of course, no problem. I haven't been so excited in a long time. Ming Yueqing was pleasantly surprised. Not only did he create a record, but he also has such a special ability. If I don't accept him as a disciple, I will regret it for the rest of my life. The two of them were more excited than the other. It was as if they had encountered a top treasure, and it was even more exciting than a top treasure. After all, treasures could not grow, but people could. As they grew stronger, all treasures would fall to the side. The nearby Gu Yurong looked at Tianyin as if she had seen a ghost. She was closer, so how could she not feel the power of the two flames? Originally, they thought that Tianyin was too arrogant, but in the end, they discovered that they had misunderstood very deeply. This is impossible. He actually has dual flames, and they even restrain each other. Bah! What's so great about this? He just happened to have a bit of luck. Maybe his body will explode in the end. This is really hard to say. Those who cultivate dual attributes can explode everywhere. Their tone was filled with jealousy. They thought that since Tianyin cultivated dual attributes, he might be able to persist for now, but there was a possibility that his body would explode in the future. At that time, all the resources they had invested into him would be wasted, and that would be a huge loss. Of course, although they said this, they didn't dare to say it to the two elders face to face. They were both so excited, and if they tried to pour cold water on them, they would probably be thrown out. Disciple greets two masters. Tianyin smiled and bowed. He had recognized these two masters just like that. How could he not want such a cheap master? Even though he had the system, he still needed a lot of resources. If he could get the help of two powerful Lord of Heaven, it would be hard for him not to become stronger. Although you could level up by killing monsters, don't forget that there were other ways to level up. For example, consuming elixirs or something. Perhaps it would be like the soul accumulating pill, which could provide explosive experience. Most importantly, he was unfamiliar with this place, so he could use this opportunity to familiarize himself with the situation here. With a backer behind him, killing monsters would be much easier. Good. The two elders were all smiles as they dragged Tianyin inside. Let's go. Follow us inside. We can start preparing for the strengthening training soon. Your immortal flame and heavenly Yin flame are both at the level of Fan Yu. The true God domain flame has reached the level of demonic flame. After saying that, Yu Yanglong stretched out his hand, and a flame gushed out from his palm. This flame was not red, but a white flame. The moment the flame appeared, the surrounding temperature immediately rose by hundreds of degrees. If not for their cultivation being not low, they would have been directly burned to ashes. White flame bone fire. Reincarnation level high-grade flame. One of the 10 great demonic flames. It has an overbearing, scorching flame that can burn all objects. Special effect. Greatly increases the success rate of refining and alchemy. Reincarnation level flame. The grades here were no longer limited to heaven level. Above heaven level was reincarnation level. Generally speaking, the levels were reincarnation level, heavenly Tao level, heavenly God level, monarch level. This was applicable to the fire level, and it could also be applied to the weapon level. It was basically unified. Whether it was martial arts, flames, or weapons, they were all based on this standard. Above the heaven grade was the reincarnation grade. Above the divine grade was also the reincarnation grade. Yes, there is also my flame. Ming Yueqing also stretched out his hand. A green flame emerged from his palm and floated above his palm. The surroundings immediately began to freeze. The temperature dropped by hundreds of degrees, freezing the entire area. When the two flames of different attributes came into contact, a layer of mist quickly appeared between the layers. The ground began to burn. This was still under the situation of suppression. If it was not suppressed, the surrounding disciples, including Yi Tianyun, would have been quickly burned to ashes. The Lord of Heaven's cultivation was not a joke. He could easily crush them. Underworld devouring flame. Reincarnation level high-grade flame. One of the 10 great demonic flames. It has the power of extreme cold. It can freeze all objects or directly turn them into powder. Special effect. Greatly increases the success rate of refining pills. The two great demonic flames were owned by them. In terms of grade, they were much stronger than the immortal flame. The immortal flame belonged to the Fan Yu flame. It could only be regarded as an ordinary flame. It was not at the level of a demonic flame. However, there was no need to worry now. The two of them naturally had a way to increase the power of the flame. They could even replace it with their own demonic flame. However, it was definitely not easy. They had to be careful. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was pleasantly surprised. No problem. We will listen to the two masters. The others were about to explode with jealousy. Gu Yurong bit her lips. She didn't know what to say. She clenched her small hands and stood silently at the side. She looked lonely, as if she had been left out. It should be said that from the beginning, no one had paid attention to her. By the way, two masters, this is my friend. Can I take her with me? Yi Tianyun didn't forget to pull Gu Yurong. It wasn't that he had a good impression of Gu Yurong. It was that Gu Yanlong and the others didn't discriminate against humans. They even had a good impression of humans. He felt that he should take care of them. After all, Gu Yanlong had taken care of him. At least he wouldn't discriminate against him. If he went to the tree shaft, he would probably be kicked out before he could enter. The two of them looked at their disciple meaningfully. It was as if they were looking at their disciple's woman. Yu Yanglong smiled. Sure, little girl, come with us. I believe your results won't be bad if you can join our core hall. Thank you, elders. Gu Yurong's eyes lit up. She wasn't stubborn to refuse. She came here to increase her strength or status. She would be a fool to refuse Yi Tianyun's good intentions. Chapter 902. As soon as they entered the main hall, a few youths immediately stood up and respectfully bowed to the two elders. Elder Yu, Elder Ming, please don't be anxious. The newcomers have just joined the core palace, and they still need to go through the welcoming ceremony. Don't forget this. Their cultivation was not low. All of them were at the peak of Star Monarch 8th or 9th layer. Among them, there were even first refinement or second refinement Earth Monarch. Their talent is amazing, but they still haven't been selected as a disciple. This time, Yi Tianyun became a disciple. Let them watch the excitement. They are jealous. Welcoming ceremony? Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and looked at them, as well as the surrounding disciples. All of their eyes were filled with hostility, but most of them were filled with jealousy. He knew that his actions would definitely make people jealous, especially the human race, which made them feel even more dissatisfied and humiliated. After all, there were so many disciples, but there was not a single human. There were more than 100 people around, and aside from him, there was basically no other human here. No wonder the human race was discriminated against, without any strong experts supporting them. How could they have any face? But in comparison, the gap was not small. All of them were young, but their cultivation was extremely heaven-defying. Among them, bloodline played a big role. Some were born with Spirit King stage cultivation. This was the gap. Unless the human cultivator was a strong cultivator, otherwise the children they gave birth to would not have high cultivation. How could they not be discriminated against if their starting point was lower than the other races? The more discriminated, the more they couldn't bear to see them become stronger or stand higher than them. I almost forgot about the welcoming ceremony. Yu Yonglong scratched his messy hair, looked at him and said, as long as the newcomers join the core palace, they must go through the welcoming ceremony. If the results are good, they will not be punished, otherwise they will be punished. Of course, if the results are good, they will get extra rewards. There are no exceptions, so if the two of you want to enter, you have to go through the welcoming ceremony first. Of course, if the two of you are not in good condition, you can rest outside, and after the welcoming ceremony, you can officially enter. What ritual? Tianyin looked at the mocking expressions of the people in front of him. It was obvious that this welcoming ceremony would not be a simple one. It would definitely not be a simple welcoming ceremony. A welcoming ceremony of eating and drinking was absolutely impossible. Looking at their faces, they probably wouldn't even be able to say the word welcome. Instead, they would say the word trash. The welcome ceremony is very simple. You just have to carve your name on the stone tablet and leave your name on it. Yu Yonglong said, this has always been the rule of the core hall. Unless you leave the heavenly mandate divine realm or die, your name will always be on it. As he spoke, Yu Yonglong pointed to the side where there was a huge stone tablet. Rather than calling it a stone tablet, it would be better to call it a wall. From here, one could see many names. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 10,000 names. This meant that there were 10,000 disciples in the core hall. However, out of the tens of thousands of disciples, only one could persist for 10 days. This ratio was terrifyingly low. It seemed that persisting for 10 days was too difficult. Although there were many disciples, not all of them were in the core hall. After all, Yu Yonglong had said that as long as they did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm or were dead, they would continue to stay up there. Therefore, some of them had powerful cultivations and went out to gain experience, or they held important positions and so on. In theory, they were not considered disciples of the core hall. However, they did not die and did not betray the heavenly mandate divine realm. Therefore, they would stay up there. Nian Xiu. This name is the most eye-catching. It's in the top area. Tianyin looked carefully at the huge wall and found that the name at the top was only Nian Xiu. The ones that were closer to the bottom were all dozens of feet away. They were not on the same level at all. Of course, there were also many names engraved at the bottom. He did not know how they were arranged. Nian Xiu. This is the one who set the record of 10 days of baptism in the divine realm. A female lord of heaven, a role model for us women. Gu Yurong's eyes were full of fanatical worship. She worshipped Nian Xiu very much. She should have seen her as her idol. And she is a strong woman? Tianyin was stunned. He thought that the record holder would be a male. He did not expect it to be a female cultivator. This surprised him. Little brother, this is our welcome ceremony. The method is very simple. You just need to engrave your name on it. However, you don't use your hands or weapons. You use your spiritual energy. I heard that you lasted for 14 days. This is incredible. Since that's the case, logically speaking, you should be able to surpass senior sister Nian. If you don't, you'll become a laughingstock. The one who answered was naturally the brother here. His name was Zhou Ruinjie. He looked at him with a smile and explained in a very friendly manner. However, a hint of jealousy and disdain flashed in his eyes. It had already revealed what was going on in his heart. Of course, Tianyin knew that he was not up to any good from the negative level of affection. Regardless of whether he was a disciple of Yu Yonglong or not, he should indeed call him brother. He should have called him brother when he just entered. As expected, he is up to no good. Tianyin smiled. These guys just wanted to make things difficult for him. They wanted to see him make a fool of himself. If he could not surpass Nian Xiu, It meant that persisting for 14 days was also useless. He was still not as good as Nian Xiu. Nian Xiu was not of the same race as them, but at least she was not a human. That's pretty much it. This welcome ceremony has a standard line. If you engrave it too low, you will be punished. Yu Yonglong pointed at the bottom of the wall. He said, if it is lower than this line, you will be punished. The punishment is very simple. You will have to help water the back mountain and take care of the spiritual medicine for 3 years. Yu Yonglong and the others, of course, knew what these guys were thinking. However, they did not expose them. Competition was a good thing. They also knew what the problem was. However, as long as there was no underhanded means, they would not care. For example, if it was a normal challenge, as long as it was not a sinister person, no one would care. If they secretly got rid of Yi Tianyun, they would definitely be furious. The Heavenly Mandate Divine Region was extremely against this kind of situation. Once it was found out, it would be a capital punishment. Chapter 903. Junior Brother or Junior Sister. Who will go first? Zhou Ruinja smiled as he looked at the two of them. He wanted to see who would go first. Anyway, to him, Yi Tianyun's results were the most important. Gu Yurong's results had nothing to do with him. He wanted to see if Yi Tianyun could surpass Nian Xiu's record. If he couldn't break it, then it would be a joke. I'll go first. Gu Yurong stood up. She didn't start from the back, but chose to start first. The purpose of her doing this was to prove herself. She wanted others to notice her, and not to be a transparent person. Yi Tianyun's light was too dazzling. Even if she was a dazzling star, compared to Yi Tianyun's sun, she was nothing. Then, Junior Sister will go first. Zhou Ruinjie stood to the side and indicated for her to carve her name first. This welcoming ceremony not only tested the strength of one's mental energy, but it also allowed everyone to know the name of the newcomer. Although it was called a welcoming ceremony, it was actually a self-introduction. However, this self-introduction relied on one's ability to prove oneself. If the name was carved low, it meant that one's mental energy was not good enough. Mental energy was equivalent to the strength of one's soul. The stronger one's mental energy was, the more benefits it would bring to cultivation. It was basically equivalent to talent. Especially mental energy, it was the hardest to cultivate. Most cultivators could only be considered to have just started. Breaking through to the star venerate level was considered to have just started. Hence, this welcoming ceremony was a way to test one's mental energy talent. Gu Yurong came to the wall and placed her hand on it. Then, she slowly closed her eyes. Following that, a formless energy surged out of her body. Immediately, the wall started to emit a faint light. This light kept surging upwards. At first, it was quite fast. However, when it reached about 3 meters, it suddenly slowed down. This proved that from here on, the difficulty started to increase. Mental energy could not surge upwards. However, Gu Yurong still managed to reach the passing line in one breath and continued to rush upwards. However, her speed started to slow down. However, it was fine. She just had to climb up slowly. She climbed up inch by inch. Soon, she reached 3 meters, 6 meters, and then 10 meters. His speed was neither fast nor slow as he climbed up. Soon, he surpassed many of his fellow disciples and even achieved good results. Because the higher one went, the fewer names there were. There were the most people at the bottom, but the number of people at the top began to decrease rapidly. However, compared to Nian Xiu, who was hundreds of feet tall, the difference was still too great. He had only climbed 30 feet, and it was already very strenuous. He didn't know how that Nian Xiu carved words on it. However, there was no need to compete with Nian Xiu. It was fine to compete with others. When he climbed to about 30 feet, the surrounding names dropped drastically. He had managed to squeeze into the top 3,000, leaving the 7,000-odd people behind. Moreover, the fact that she could continue climbing without stopping proved that Gu Yurong still had potential. Yu Yonglong and the others looked at Gu Yurong, and their eyes lit up. She looked like a promising talent, especially since she could continue to climb up. However, Gu Yurong's forehead was covered in sweat. It was enough to show that this wasn't an easy task. Junior sister, I suggest that you carve words within the range that you can bear. If you just charge upwards, it will be extremely difficult. Zhou Ruinjie reminded her. He didn't have much to say to Yi Tianyun, but he didn't have any enmity towards Gu Yurong. He immediately became a normal senior brother, and senior brother who cared and took care of people. Gu Yurong didn't say anything. She focused all her energy on the wall. So how would she have the energy to reply? She didn't listen to Zhou Ruinjie and continued to charge upwards. She wanted to carve words at a higher place. If she wanted to get better treatment, she had to show off, especially with two elders behind her. How could she not work hard? Yi Tianyun looked at her from behind and couldn't help but nod his head. Gu Yurong worked hard, not because she liked to show off, but because she wanted to prove herself. Only by proving herself would she be able to get better treatment. Very quickly, her mental strength continued to charge upwards. When it reached the 50 feet mark, it was a little difficult to go further. At this time, there were only a few hundred people left. This meant that she had made it into the top 1,000 in one go. This was really not easy. Initially, there were many who could last more than 7 days, but there were very few who could reach the 50 feet mark. At the very least, she had made it from the top 10,000 to the top 1,000. This was much better than many of the cultivators present. Many of the cultivators present could at most reach the 30 to 40 feet mark. Only a few could reach more than 50 feet. All of them looked at Gu Yurong with different expressions. They didn't expect her to have such potential. It was really impressive. Finally, she started to carve her name. It was as if there was a transparent carving knife on the wall. She started to carve her name bit by bit. Stroke by stroke, she carved Gu Yurong's name on the wall. Carving her name was even more difficult than climbing up. After all, the difficulty of leaving a mark on the wall was no less than climbing up. Even so, she still carved her name on the wall bit by bit. Looking at the name one by one, they couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Soon, the 3 words Gu Yurong were carved on the area a little more than 15 meters high. After it was done, Gu Yurong sat on the ground as if she had collapsed. Her entire body was drenched in sweat, as if she had just been fished out of the water. One had to say that Gu Yurong's situation was very bad. She had overdrawn herself. It was not easy for her to persist to this point. If she failed, she would have to start all over again. One could imagine how difficult it was. Junior apprentice Sister Gu, good job. That's right. The level of your mental strength is not bad. It seems that your foundation is very good. One by one, they began to applaud. They all felt that Gu Yurong's performance was very good. Not bad, not bad. You are a girl with great potential. Work hard. I am optimistic about you. Ming Yueqing smiled at Gu Yurong and praised her. Many thanks for Elder Ming's praise. Gu Yurong stood up and bowed respectfully. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy. This was the result she wanted. She had to show her ability and prove that she had potential. Only then would she be able to stand firmly in the core hall. Immediately, she retreated. When she looked at Yi Tianyun, she nodded lightly, indicating that Yi Tianyun could go ahead and carve her name. This time, everyone's eyes were focused on him. They wanted to see if he could break Nian Ciyu's record. That was a height of 130 feet. Compared to the second place, it was more than 40 feet. It was simply in existence on a different level. Yi Tianyun smiled. Wasn't it just playing with mental strength and control? Compared to this, who could he be afraid of? He was now a creator-level divine pattern master. Chapter 904. Yi Tianyun felt that the reason why Nian Ciyu could obtain such shocking results was because she herself was a very strong divine rune master. Of course, only those who had reached the peak level of the creator of Fan Yu were qualified to be called divine engraving masters. Those below the divine carver master would naturally be addressed in the same way as Fan Yu. It was just that those at the top would not be addressed as creators. This was too exaggerated. It couldn't really create anything. Fan Yu referred to him as such because at this level, he was able to create powerful divine inscriptions. Hence, although they were called creators, in reality, they were only at the entry level of the god domain. They were definitely not creators. As long as one had a strong divine inscription master level, then leaving a deep mark on the surface wouldn't be a problem at all. Therefore, he inferred that Nian Ciu was absolutely a very strong divine inscription master. After all, a divine inscription master's mental strength was very strong. If one's mental strength was not strong enough, it would be easy to fail. Of course, it was also possible that they were born with strong spiritual power. It was not that there were no such people. Some people were born with explosive spiritual power, and there was really no way to compare with such people. As he lifted his foot to walk up the wall, the sound of discussion immediately rang out behind him. I dare say that he will never be able to surpass senior sister Nian. I think so too. Previously, there was someone who persisted for more than 9 days and almost reached 10 days. The record had not been broken, but it was infinitely close. But when it comes to carving the name, the difference is like heaven and earth. It's not even on the same level. That's right. To be able to leave your name high up in the rankings is true strength. Maybe he's the type that looks strong on the outside, but is weak on the inside. He can't even reach a height of 1 zhang. All of them thought so. They felt that breaking the record was not a problem. The real focus was to leave their names on it. They were waiting to see Yi Tianyun make a fool out of himself. So what if Yi Tianyun achieved a height of 30 to 40 feet? Even if he achieved a height of 80 to 90 feet, it would still be a joke to them. As long as he didn't surpass Nian Ciu, he would be ridiculed. Persisting for 14 days was meaningless. This was the only way to prove one's strength. For example, no matter how talented one was, he couldn't be called a super genius if he was beaten black and blue in a fight. Everything would be determined by actual combat, not by using certain things to measure one's ability. Little did they know that these were just sour grapes in their hearts. After all, no matter what, he was still much stronger than them. It was just that they liked to comfort themselves in this way, the mentality of the weak. I don't know how his mental strength is, but I think it shouldn't be too bad. Yu Yonglong smiled as he looked at Yi Tianyun. It's just that to surpass that last Nian Ciu, I'm afraid this is a little more difficult. I think so too. To be able to control 2 types of flames at the same time, one spiritual energy can't be weak. The problem is that the girl Nian Ciu is too powerful. She is born with a powerful soul. She is definitely a great divine card of our heavenly mandate realm. Ming Yuqing sighed. The two of them didn't think that Yi Tianyun would surpass Nian Ciu. They had seen how heaven-defying Nian Ciu was. They didn't think that Yi Tianyun could surpass her. Yi Tianyun didn't care about what they were thinking. He went to the bottom of the wall and looked up. The words Nian Ciu were imprinted on the top of the wall. Although the words weren't big compared to the name below, it gave off a feeling of superiority. The corner of his mouth curled up, and then he reached out and covered the wall, quickly mobilizing the mental strength in his brain. Buzz! In an instant, the whole wall trembled. His overbearing mental strength, like a bolt of lightning, suddenly rushed to a height of 3 or 4 feet in one breath, and then quickly climbed up 5 feet. In a short time of a breath, he had easily surpassed Gu Yurong's result, and there was no sign of slowing down, continuing to rush up. 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet. The speed was fast and fierce. When Yi Tianyun controlled his mental strength to go up, he could indeed feel the resistance inside, but he still easily rushed up, as if he was piercing through a piece of paper. He quickly rushed up to 9 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 13 feet. In a short period of time, he had already reached the same height as Nian Ciu. However, he was only slightly higher than Nian Ciu by an inch. Immediately, 3 large words were fiercely branded on it. Yi Tianyun, dong dong dong. The 3 big words seemed to be imprinted on the wall. It was incomparably easy, and it moved people. The whole process took less than the time for half an incense stick to burn, and he easily reached the target. Previously, when Gu Yurong was carving this name, she spent a full hour to carve her name in the area of 5 feet. Yi Tianyun only spent less than the time for half an incense stick to burn to crush Nian Ciu's height, and he directly carved his name on the wall an inch away. His limit was just a little higher than Nian Ciu's. Of course, it couldn't be like that. Many people could see that Yi Tianyun did it on purpose. No one knew where his limit was. and he purposely went a little higher than Nian. Everything was done with ease, and it was extremely easy. Everyone was dumbfounded, including the two teachers. If it was them, their results would definitely be much better than Tianyun's, and it wouldn't be a problem for them to run a few dozen feet. But under the circumstances of this level of cultivation, they couldn't do it to this extent. Previously, he said that he wouldn't surpass Nian, but now he easily surpassed her, and he could even carve his name a little higher. He was obviously telling everyone that he just wanted to surpass Nian. It was very simple, and that was to surpass her, but not by too much so that no one knew what Tianyun's limit was. The corner of Tianyun's mouth curled up into a smile, and he turned to look at them and said, "Teachers, I wonder what my result is like." "Good, good." The two elders' faces turned red. This was because they were excited, and it was like they were slapped in the face. They were still very excited. After all, this was their own disciple. Wasn't it good for their disciple to be a little stronger? After Gu Yurong saw Tianyun's result, her hanging heart immediately relaxed. Following that, she shook her head and revealed a bitter smile. Luckily, she went first. If she went later, then no one would care about her, and they would only stare at Tianyun's name. This name was so conspicuous. It was even a little higher than Nian's, above all the other names. Zhou Ruinjia's expression was ugly. He originally thought that he could make things difficult for Tianyun, but who knew that he would steal the limelight instead, shocking all the core hall disciples. If the divine realm baptism was boring, then what about carving names? What kind of saying was that? Chapter 905. All of them couldn't be jealous of Tianyun. This was already heaven-defying. Where were they? They were all at the standard of 4 to 5 feet. The highest was around 7 to 8 feet. The gap between them and Tianyun was really too big. Previously, they thought that Tianyun wouldn't be able to surpass Nian. Who knew that it would be so easy? They didn't know how long Nian had spent to leave her name at such a high level. In short, the time that Tianyun spent was too short. Before they could react, he had already completed everything. Everything was so fast and so violent. That's right, it was quite violent. They had never seen such a violent way of carving words. It crushed everyone. Senior brothers, what do you think of my result? Tianyun looked at Zhou Ruinjia and the others. At this moment, he naturally wouldn't be stingy with his words. This is not bad. Zhou Ruinjia was extremely embarrassed. He wanted to make things difficult for Tianyun, but in the end, he dug a hole for himself. Now he didn't know what to say. Then there are no more problems. The welcoming ceremony is over. Masters, can we go in? Tianyun couldn't be bothered with him. He would rather focus on doing something. Yes, let's go. The two elders smiled and brought Tianyun inside. What are you thinking about? Let's go. Tianyun patted Gu Yurong's shoulder, indicating for her to follow him. Gu Yurong recovered from her shock. Then, she hesitated for a while before choosing to follow. The group of people looked at each other. Their eyes were still fixed on the 3 huge words Tianyun on the wall. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. Senior brother Zhou, this kid's level is so high. Isn't he going to step on our heads? A cultivator at the side said anxiously. How is that possible? Zhou Ruinjia's eyes surged with a hint of viciousness. I don't believe that he is also incomparably strong in battle. I will find a time to challenge him and beat him up. Then, I will make him behave. What the hell? He's clearly a human. How can he be so strong? That's right. Beat him down so hard that he can't stay in the core hall any longer. They really couldn't believe it. How could a race that had always been at the bottom suddenly rise up? This was like a student with poor grades suddenly becoming the top student the next day. Who could believe it? However, the truth was right before their eyes. They had no choice but to believe it. They could only use other methods to suppress Tianyun. They couldn't bear to see a human riding on their heads, so they had to think of a way to deal with Tianyun. All of them had sinister expressions on their faces, but some didn't join in. After all, some did not dislike the human race and were considered neutral, while others had a favorable impression of the human race. With so many races, some would more or less not reject the human race, while some would reject it very much. Overall, the majority of them were against it. While they were plotting, the two elders brought Tianyun and Gu Yurong to the main hall. They passed through many passageways and even took the teleportation array. After changing locations several times, they finally arrived at the elders' main hall. The elders' main hall was specially built for the two elders to stay in. Along the way, Tianyun saw many cultivators. Some were from the same sect, and some were other attendants. Of course, the core hall wasn't just for the disciples. There were also many cultivators with lower cultivation. They were in charge of cleaning the place or taking care of the flowers, herbs, and the like. This was a planet, so there couldn't be only a few thousand people here. Many cultivators stayed here, busy with many things, and the division of labor was clear. This is the elders' hall? They sure are generous. Tianyun looked up. It wasn't that the buildings here were luxurious, but there was a large array that kept absorbing the stellar power from above. First, it flowed into the elders' main hall, then into the other halls. Therefore, the stellar power in the elders' main hall was the densest. The other halls weren't bad either. It was much denser than the planet they came from. It was like a heaven for cultivation. It was even better compared to the three realms. The best cultivation place in the three realms couldn't compare to this small corner. In particular, this place provided him with astral powers instead of spiritual powers. Apart from that, there were many dense divine runes on it, and any one of them was extremely profound. Compared to the ones he had encountered before, it was like heaven and earth. No wonder the evil spirit race looked down on the divine runes they had set up. This level could only be regarded as a very ordinary beginner level here. At least a third-grade divine inscriber can carve this level. Tianyun struck the divine rune twice. It was a super reinforced divine rune. Even if he attacked it, he wouldn't be able to damage it at all. Unless one's cultivation was a whole realm higher, it would be impossible to damage this place. Then, under the guidance of the two elders, they came to the elders' main hall. As soon as they entered, they saw that it was divided into three passages. One was very hot, and the other was very cold. There was no doubt that the passage on the left would lead to the area where Yu Yanglong was, and the other would lead to the area where Ming Yueqing was. Only the middle passage was normal. They brought Tianyun to the middle passage. After entering, it was empty, and there was nothing inside. The surroundings were connected in all directions, but they didn't know where it led to. Tianyun found that the reinforced divine runes in this area were even more powerful, several times stronger than the ones outside. This is the place where the two of us usually spar. From time to time, we might get some inspiration. Yu Yanglong saw that Tianyun and the others were curious, so he explained. This is a martial arts field? Tianyun nodded. No wonder there were so many reinforcements here. When two Lord of Heaven fought, how could the power not be terrifying? If they didn't reinforce a few more layers here, the core hall would be smashed to pieces. More or less the same, Yu Yanglong smiled and said, "How do you feel now? Can we start immediately?" He was already eager to give it a try, and Ming Yueqing was also the same. He wanted to let Tianyun try immediately to see if he could master their flame. Not a lot, but at least a little bit to see the degree of compatibility. No problem, we can start now. Tianyun was not long-winded. Before coming here, he had already rested enough, so he was full of energy. That's exactly what we wanted. Yu Yanglong smiled at Gu Yurong and said, "Little girl, you just stay on the side and watch. If you have the slightest feeling for any of the flames, we can let you try. Let's see if you can grasp this opportunity." Thank you, Elder. Gu Yurong's tender body trembled, almost crying. Chapter 906. Tianyun looked at Gu Yurong, and when the latter met his eyes, he nodded slightly, giving her an encouraging look, indicating that she should grasp this opportunity. He was simply fighting for Gu Yurong. Seeing such a hard-working girl, he couldn't help but want to help. The most important thing was that Gu Yurong didn't reject him, plus Gu Yanglong had helped him before, so he just conveniently helped her. In fact, this wasn't really a help, it was just a convenience. Whether she could grasp it or not depended on Gu Yurong's ability. If she couldn't grasp it, then it could only be said that they were not fated. Immediately, Yu Yanglong and Ming Yueqing looked at him. Yu Yanglong first said, "I wonder which of our flames do you want to feel first?" This must be done step by step. He couldn't absorb both flames at the same time, otherwise it would easily cause problems. Although it seemed that Yi Tianyin was very experienced, they still had to be cautious. If Yi Tianyin's body exploded, it would definitely be a big loss. Then let's follow Master Yu first. Yi Tianyin planned to use the white flame bone fire first. After all, he had the immortal flame from the beginning, so he had a higher degree of control. Well, let's start with my flame. Yu Yanglong gently stretched out his hand, and a small flame appeared in his palm. His face was serious as he said, "This is the white flame bone fire's origin flame. So far, you only have 3 chances to control it. If you fail all of them, then wait a few years." The origin flame could be absorbed into the body, and after subduing it, it would become one's own flame. If one casually threw out an ordinary flame, then it would only burn people to death and would not be able to control it. This was the most common way to transfer flames, but the failure rate was extremely high. The highest success rate was obtained in the outside world, and subduing it would be much easier. However, the white flame bone fire wasn't something that could be found everywhere. When Yu Yanglong was young, he spent a lot of effort, and under a lot of opportunities, he was able to obtain it. To put it bluntly, these things could only be found by chance. Therefore, one could only transfer the origin flame within the body, but it couldn't be given an unlimited amount, like blood essence. Every time he transferred the origin flame, the flame within his body would weaken a little. If he gave out too much at once, it would be difficult for him to recover. 3 times was a very good number. This way, the recovery time would be slightly faster, but it would still take a few years. Of course, to them, a few years was just a snap of the fingers. No problem. Yi Tianyin nodded, indicating that they could begin. Immediately, Yu Yanglong passed the white blazing bone fire over, so that Yi Tianyin could absorb it into his body. However, Yi Tianyin was a bit more violent. His inextinguishable flame immediately emerged, wrapping around the white blaze bone fire and quickly absorbing it into his body. Just as he absorbed it into his body, the system's voice rang in his ears. "Ding, detected white flame bone fire. Are you willing to absorb it as your own flame?" Yi Tianyun's eyes were filled with joy, and he immediately replied, "Absorb." Ding, successfully obtained white blazing bone fire. Grade, Heaven level lower grade. Requires 3 million experience points to upgrade. It was easy to absorb all of his flames, but the grade was too low. Yu Yanglong couldn't possibly transfer his own flames over. If that happened, Yi Tianyin wouldn't even know how he died. He would definitely need to weaken the flames slightly before he could absorb them. This is really easy. Yi Tianyin squinted his eyes. It was really too easy to obtain such a shocking flame, unlike the inextinguishable flame. High-grade heaven level was already the peak, and there was no way for it to advance any further. How is it? Did you fail? Yu Yanglong saw that after Yi Tianyin absorbed the flames, he kept quiet and thought that he had failed. He sighed and said, "Don't be disheartened. Failure is normal. After all, it isn't that easy to grasp. I don't recruit many disciples, but there are still quite a few of them, but none of them succeeded. Master Yu, are you talking about this?" Yi Tianyin smiled and stretched out his hand. Whoosh! The white blazing bone fire appeared in front of him. It was a lot worse than Yu Yanglong's, but he had successfully grasped it. Yu. They were incoherent and didn't know what to say. Succeeding on the first try, how could they not be shocked? They had seen many geniuses, but they had never seen such a heaven-defying existence. Gu Yurong was dumbfounded. Today was the most shocking day for her. Since she was born, she had never been shocked so many times. Now it's Master Ming's turn. Let's see if he can continue to absorb the dark devouring flame. Yi Tianyin motioned them to calm down and not be so excited. After a while, the 2 masters calmed down. Ming Yueqing took a deep breath to calm down and said, "Okay, it's my turn this time. My flame is a bit higher than the white blazing bone fire, so it will be slightly more difficult to absorb. It doesn't matter if I fail." Then he released the dark devouring flame, and cold air immediately rushed out. The gray was the same, but the power was completely different. The dark devouring flame was indeed a bit higher than the white blazing bonfire. In the list of demonic flames, the white blazing bonfire was ranked 8th, while the dark devouring flame was ranked 7th. Therefore, if the grade of the flame was different in a real battle, it would have a great advantage and could suppress the opponent's flame. Tianyun didn't stand on ceremony. How could he let go of something that could enhance the power of his flame? He stretched out his hand and absorbed the dark devouring flame, and a familiar voice appeared in his ears. Ding detected the dark devouring flame. Do you want to absorb it as your own ability? Not for now. Tianyun didn't make it his own flame, but chose to give it up. However, after giving it up, it became a prop and fell into his inventory, meaning that he could absorb it at will. After a while, he said, I didn't succeed this time. Tianyun's reply made the three of them feel relieved. If he succeeded directly, it would definitely scare them silly. It's okay, there's still a chance to slowly try. Ming Yueqing comforted him and said, After all, the difficulty of this flame is quite high, and it won't be easy to absorb. Elder Ming, are you implying that my flame is bad? Yu Yanglong glared at him from the side. After all, he had succeeded in the first try. In terms of grade, it is indeed better than yours. Are you not convinced? Ming Yueqing said without any trace of politeness. Good. Do you want to try again and see whose flame is stronger? Yu Yanglong said in a dissatisfied tone. Come on. Who's afraid of who? Ming Yueqing rolled up his sleeves, ready to compete with Yu Yanglong. Ahem. 2 masters. No one's flame is bad. It's just that after absorbing the white blazing bonfire, the difficulty increased a bit. Chapter 907. Under Tianyun's persuasion, the two of them finally stopped quarreling, especially since his words were very reasonable. After absorbing the white flame bonfire, the difficulty of absorbing another flame would indeed increase by a bit. In other words, if they absorbed the dark devouring flame first, the white flame bonfire would also fail. This time, the two of them snorted and did not continue to argue. Do you want to control the white flame bonfire first, and then try to absorb my dark devouring flame? Ming Yueqing asked. There's no need for that. We can try one more time now. If we fail again, then I won't try for the time being. Tianyun said with a smile. This time he would definitely not fail. As long as he failed once, it would be fine. All right. Ming Yueqing once again passed the origin of flame over. After Tianyun absorbed it, he immediately absorbed it as his own flame ability. Soon a pleasant voice sounded in his ears. Ding successfully absorbed dark devouring flame. Immediately, Tianyun stretched out his hand, and with a swoosh sound, the dark devouring flame appeared in front of them. Each of them was dumbfounded. He really succeeded. Although they had failed once, it was not a problem for them. They were also quite powerful existences. One had to know that others had tried countless times, and all of them had ended in failure. Tianyun succeeded on his second try, which meant that he was still a monstrous genius among monstrous geniuses. Even if he tried 10 times before succeeding, he would still be a genius among geniuses. As long as he succeeded, he would be considered a super genius. Tianyun, of course, knew this truth. He just wanted to let them know that he could not succeed on his first try, and that he was not at the level of a freak. To show his ability, he must show it, otherwise, how could he win more resources for himself? Success. It's a success. Too terrifying. 2 flames are about to be mastered. They were shocked and excited at the same time, not knowing what to say. You try it, see if you can release 2 flames at the same time? Yu Yanglong found himself stuttering. He had never been so shocked in his life. No problem. According to their instructions, Tianyun extended his hand and released the 2 types of flames. Soon, 2 more flames appeared in front of him. They were the white blazing bonfire and the hell-devouring netherfire. This was not difficult for him at all. If he could use all 4 types of flames. However, he didn't want to scare everyone, so he didn't use it. You've really done it. You're definitely the first person in history to have mastered two types of flames that completely counter each other. This matter must be reported to the domain lord. Yu Yonglong and Ming Yueqing were too excited. This was a super genius worth cultivating. How could they not report it? Yes, this must be reported. The domain lord would definitely be very happy when she found out. I didn't expect that our heavenly mandate divine realm would finally have a super genius. In this battle of heavenly ascension, he will definitely make it to the top 10, Ming Yueqing said with surprise. The two of them were excited to each other, as if they saw the hope of victory. The ascending battle of the god domain? Etienne narrowed his eyes, as if he had obtained some information. Yes, the ascending battle of the god domain. Ming Yueqing looked at him and said with a smile, "You just joined, so you don't know. Our core hall controls the battle of reputation of the heavenly mandate divine realm, and everything depends on us. I'll tell you in detail later. After all, there is still a long time. Now it's your turn, little girl. You've seen it all. Which flame do you feel?" They didn't forget to give Gu Yurong a chance, especially now that they were in a very good mood. If someone praised them, they might reward them. This junior wants to absorb the dark devouring flame, mainly because this junior's bloodline belongs to the cold attribute, the bloodline of the ice dragon. The dark devouring flame is more suitable for this junior to try. Gu Yurong stated the reason for her choice, which was quite clear. The bloodline of the ice dragon. This is indeed the best choice for this flame. Ming Yueqing squinted at her and said with a smile, "I can give you 2 chances, so don't be too nervous." "Elder Ming, are you all right?" "Giving me 2 chances will hurt my body," Gu Yurong said hurriedly. "Don't worry, I'm very happy today, and at most I just need a little more time to recover. It's not a big problem." Ming Yueqing smiled. This was actually equivalent to giving face to Yi Tianyun. They all thought that Gu Yurong was Yi Tianyun's woman, and in order to make their disciple feel more at ease, they would certainly give her a little extra. "Just listen to Master Ming." Yi Tianyun signaled her not to refuse. Ming Yueqing was not a fool. He knew how to behave. Gu Yurong nodded. She knew that it was all because of Yi Tianyun. Then she began to accept it, and tried to swallow the dark devouring flame. As soon as the dark devouring flame was absorbed into her body immediately bloomed with a faint blue light. The blood vessels in her body all lit up, and the surface of her arms appeared with a blue light, as if it was stimulating some kind of power. Buzz! Gu Yurong closed her eyes and floated up, the origin fire in her body quickly surging around. The movement was much bigger than that of Yi Tianyun. This is not just the blood of the ice dragon. It is the body of the ice saint. Ming Yueqing said in shock. The body of the ice saint? Yi Tianyun's eyes brightened. It was quite a familiar body. Wasn't it Shi Shuiyun's body? After a while, the dark devouring flame was firmly grasped by her. She stretched out her hand, and the dark devouring flame rose up. The cold air was threatening. This time, they were all stunned. Not only did Yi Tianyun succeed in absorbing the dark devouring flame in one go, but today there was another person who could successfully absorb the dark devouring flame in one go. Both of us are so lucky today, aren't we? 2 people who can control the dark devouring flame. Is the heavenly mandate realm going to prosper? Their faces were red, and under their messy hair, there was a red face. They were all excited, and they had never been so excited. "I have the body of the ice saint?" Gu Yurong was stunned. She was not very clear about it, especially when she could use the flame. Her heart was about to fly out of her chest. It felt like a complete turnaround. "Congratulations," Yi Tianyun said to her with a smile. Thank you." Her eyes were red, and tears immediately came out. She cried at the drop of a hat, and everything was inexplicable. Yi Tianyun suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and he did not know how to comfort her. "Hey boy, why don't you comfort your woman? What are you doing here?" Ming Yueqing reached out and patted him on the shoulder. "Master, you must have misunderstood something. She is my companion, not my woman," Yi Tianyun said helplessly. "What?" Both of them were dumbfounded. It turned out that they had misunderstood. Chapter 908. Looking at their misunderstood expressions, Etienne shrugged his shoulders. Gu Yurong, who was next to him, blushed. She did not think much about it. She did not expect to be thought like that. After wiping away her tears with the back of her hand, she felt very shy. The atmosphere became awkward, and she did not know what to say. Ahem, no matter what, are you willing to be my disciple? Ming Yueqing coughed a few times to ease the awkward atmosphere. Disciple is willing. After saying that, Gu Yurong knelt down without hesitation. She was very excited. She had been waiting for this moment, but everything felt like a dream. Originally, there was no hope, but now she was about to become Ming Yueqing's disciple. This was no different from a meteoric rise. They were the elders of the heavenly mandate divine realm, and they were far from what others could compare with. Perhaps they were not the strongest elders, but they were definitely at the forefront of the elders. There was no need to say much about the benefits of following them. Good. Ming Yueqing smiled and helped Gu Yurong up. He stretched out his hand, and an upper-grade divine weapon appeared in his hand. He handed it to Gu Yurong and said, "This is a gift for you, and this is the choice token." At the same time, the election token also appeared. Now, there were 2 election tokens. Elder Ming, since you have accepted her as your disciple, then he should be my disciple. 1 for each of us, Yu Yanglong said with a smile. Get out! Ming Yueqing rolled his eyes at him and snorted. He is both of our flames, so I should have a share. Ming Yueqing smiled and took out a high-grade divine tool and a choice token. This is my gift to you. I wanted to give you a reincarnation-level divine tool, but you need to get used to it on your own so that it would be more suitable for you. Ming Yueqing said with a smile on his face. Yes, I also want to give you a gift. Yu Yanglong naturally did not want to fall behind, and also gave him the choice token and the upper-grade divine weapon. Although the grade was not as good as the reincarnation level, it was still an upper-grade divine weapon. It was an extremely precious superior grade divine artifact in the ordinary realm, and he gave it away without hesitation. After Etienne took it, wouldn't he have 3 choice tokens? Gu Yurong was very envious as she watched from the side. 2 masters were indeed different, being able to receive 2 sets of rewards. But she was not jealous at all. She was quite satisfied to get so many rewards, especially a master. If she went back and told her family, it would definitely make them explode. Almost. You have 2 choice tokens, so you can have 2 chances. It doesn't matter if you fail, there is a second chance. It doesn't matter if you fail once, there is a second chance. We won't give you too many choice tokens. Everything will depend on your own abilities. Yu Yanglong patted him on the shoulder and said, You can rest here. Someone will arrange accommodation for you later. Wait for our notice. After that, they said, now that only the 2 of them were left in the hall, Gu Yurong paused for a moment before saying, Senior Brother E, thank you for your help. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity. He would never forget this kindness. If there's anything you need me for in the future, I'll definitely help. Her tone was sonorous and forceful, filled with deep gratitude. This is just in passing. Etienne smiled and said, All right, let's go back to rest and familiarize ourselves with these flames. He didn't really care about this kind of thing. From the beginning to the end, it was Gu Yurong's own ability. It didn't have much to do with him. It was too much to say that he had helped. Although he did help, it was only a trivial matter. After they left, the guards quickly came to greet them and brought them back to their rooms. Their rooms were in the elders' hall, and they lived in the same place as the elders. Their treatment was much better than that of the core disciples outside. The treatment is really good. No wonder they desperately squeezed in. Just the accommodation alone is so amazing. Who wouldn't want to come in? When Etienne entered the accommodation, it was a unique small courtyard. The surrounding trees were not ordinary at all, but Tier 6 spirit trees. Of course, in this place, they could only be called lower Tier 6. In the God domain, there were 2 levels, lower and upper tier. The lower tier indicated that it belonged to the Fan Yu, and the upper tier indicated that it belonged to the God domain. Of course, in the ordinary realm, he had never seen a lower grade 8 or lower grade 9. In fact, he had never seen one. In the three realms, he had at most seen Tier 6 or Tier 7. He had never seen Tier 8 and above. Since the three realms couldn't grow, it naturally didn't exist. Here, there were Tier 6 and Tier 7 spirit trees or spirit herbs everywhere. As for the god domain's high-grade spirit herbs, there were none here. After all, the god domain was also dominated by lower Tier 9. Upper Tier 9 was not that easy to obtain. Even in the god domain, which was a good environment for growth, it was not easy to grow. In particular, this place was not very suitable for growth, so naturally, it would not be seen here. However, the environment here was still top-notch. With so many spirit herbs and spirit herbs here, if they were placed in the Fanyu, it would definitely cause a war in the Divine Kingdom. How could one not be tempted to have so many spirit herbs and spirit herbs so casually? Tianyun looked around. There were many spirit trees, but to him, they were not of much value. Especially for those with a higher cultivation level, the experience points gained from consuming them were not much. They could only be used for viewing or to increase the concentration of star power here. Tianyun randomly found a place in the room and sat down to meditate. He did not cultivate, but instead he started to do the lottery. Previously in the three realms, he had obtained 2 lottery chances, but he had not had the time to use them. He wondered what he would get this time. Lottery! Soon, the lottery wheel appeared. As he activated the lucky halo, the needle stopped on the consumable item. Tianyun was not disappointed. In any case, it would definitely not be bad. Ding dong! After opening the wooden box, what appeared in front of him was Teleportation God Stone. Not bad. Good stuff. Tianyun's eyes lit up. It's not bad to get Teleportation God Stone. He can use it. Of course, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have it. The shop has it for sale. At most, he just needs to spend some crazy points to buy it. Then he continued to draw the second reward. This time the needle still pointed to the consumable item. Why did I get 2 consumable items in a row? Tianyun felt a little helpless. After opening the wooden box, a 100 times EXP card appeared in front of him. Well, this thing is not bad. Chapter 909. The God Realm Lottery Roulette. After Tianyun activated the God Realm Lottery Roulette, it was no different from the previous ones. Most of the situations were similar, and there were no changes in the categories. At most, the appearance of the roulette had a slight change, such as an extra golden border, but these were not the main point. The main point was what grade of items he could get. It was very likely that he would get a Samsara grade treasure. These were all possibilities. Compared to this, he was more concerned about whether he could get a godly skill of the God Realm. What would it be like? Let me draw. Soon, the lottery roulette spun quickly. He did not want to get a consumable item, but a godly skill. If he could get a higher grade godly skill, it would undoubtedly be of great help to him. Looking at the spinning lottery roulette, he had not been so excited in a long time. He hoped that he could get a godly skill. The lottery roulette seemed to hear his shouts, and finally stopped on the godly skill. The most difficult godly skill to get was presented in front of him, just like that. Good! Tianyun could not help but shout, his heart filled with excitement. He was just thinking about it a little more. Whether he could get a godly skill or not was another matter. After getting a godly skill, he was really a little excited. Gulp! Following that, a crystal box fell into his inventory. Just the box itself had undergone a huge change, turning into a crystal form. This was the first time it had changed. Previously, it had always been a wooden box, but now it had become a crystal box. Of course, no matter what box it was, the box would not belong to him after opening it. It would disappear immediately, so he selectively ignored the change in appearance. I wonder what kind of godly skill it will be. Tianyun rubbed his palms and opened the crystal box. Soon, the godly skill appeared in front of him. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining godly skill, invisibility. What? Invisibility? Tianyun was stunned. How could it be invisibility? Didn't he get it before? After taking a closer look, he realized that it was indeed invisibility, but it was only a high-level one. Invisibility, godly skill, invisibility. Whether attacked or attacked will not be revealed. At level 4, it could last for 30 minutes and had a cooldown of 1 hour. It could guarantee that anyone within the 5th floor of the Lord of Heaven would not be able to recognize it. The completely enhanced version quickly replaced the pitiful invisibility from before and became the level 4 invisibility. It greatly increased the level of invisibility and the corresponding level of cultivation. Overall, it's not a loss. At least he doesn't need to spend a lot of crazy point to level up, which requires a lot of crazy point to level up to level 4. In theory, it was not a loss, but it was a little disappointing. Looks like the godly skill also has a repetition. I thought there would be a new one. Etianyan shook his head. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, extinguishing his passion just like that. However, he did not feel depressed. Since that was the case, there was no other way. He could only wait for the next lottery draw. Following him, he reorganized the place a little, selling off everything he didn't need, or using it to concoct pills or forge weapons. He got rid of a lot of things he didn't need in order to completely clean up his inventory. This was especially true for the martial arts from before. Many of the martial arts that he didn't need had been cleared away. The things that he got from killing the enemies were cleared away. These were basically useless. The things that were really useful here were at least rebirth level and above. Below this level, he could use them, but later on, when dealing with stronger enemies, heaven level was not enough. Almost, it's time to go to the selection hall to exchange for what I need. He didn't rest here for too long. After a general understanding of the situation in the divine realm, he chose to leave. He just came to the divine realm, so there were a lot of things he didn't know. Fortunately, he could get information at will here. He ordered the guards outside and immediately brought him a lot of detailed information about the divine realm. Once he had a clear understanding of everything, he wouldn't be like a hothead, running around aimlessly. Immediately, he got up and went to the selection hall. He could go through the teleportation formation outside. Because he was a core disciple, there was basically no need for teleportation fees. Under normal circumstances, teleportation fees were required. Even if he was a disciple of the heavenly mandate divine realm, using the teleportation formation required a fee. After all, the energy required for teleportation was not a small expense. After arriving at the selection hall, it was more like a planet than a hall. Just like the core hall, a planet was specially divided as a location. The huge selection hall had many layers inside and outside, with a constant flow of people coming and going. Their cultivations were basically at the Star Lord level. There was no Sage King level cultivator. Basically, these people were not qualified to come here. At least, they needed to be at the Star Lord level to be qualified. If one didn't know better, he would think that so many people had the selection token. In fact, there were several ways to exchange in this selection hall. Either it was the selection token, or it could be exchanged with contribution points. Of course, the crudest way was to exchange with currency. The currency of the divine realm was a kind of energy stone called Star Stone, which was similar to those spirit stones. However, it contained rich star power, which could be used to refine weapons. However, the most important thing was to use it for cultivation. Among them, using Star Stone to exchange was the worst. The price was far higher than other methods. It was not cost-effective. Therefore, most people used contribution points to exchange, and only a few used the selection token. The difference between contribution points and the selection token was that the selection token could be given to others, but the contribution points could only be used by oneself. In a sense, the selection token was the most valuable. However, it was slightly more expensive. After all, it could be given to others. After entering, the outermost hall was divided into many areas. There were the weapons area, the martial techniques area, the defensive equipment area, the medicinal pills area, the spirit herbs area, and so on. There were many areas, and each area had items of the corresponding grade. For example, in the outermost hall, the lowest grade was a heaven-grade martial technique. There were also divine tool-grade weapons with corresponding prices. There were also clearly marked prices, such as how many star stones or contribution points were needed. The selection token was not effective here, as it was used for comparison. Etianyan looked around and saw many people exchanging nearby. He was not interested in this place, so he raised his foot and walked in. When he passed through this hall, the area inside was similar to the outside. However, the items inside were worlds apart. Among them, one could exchange for samsara-grade martial techniques, samsara-grade weapons, and so on. However, the prices were extremely shocking. For example, an inferior-grade samsara-grade weapon required 20 selection tokens. He only had 3, so he could not exchange for it at all. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.